This is the Spoken Podcast. I am your host, Lance Twidwell. Here inside the Spoken Studios with my guys, Trevor Twidwell and Eddie Ortiz.
Yo.
Episode 138 in full swing, full motion. We are so happy to be here with you guys on this lovely fall Saturday in Kansas City. This is my favorite time of the year. I'm also in a really good mood because, full disclosure and full transparency here, I had myself a nice little wisdom tooth extraction this last weekend, and hopefully none of you guys even knew it during the show because I was really roughing it out. It wasn't a lot of pain, but it was a very indeed adjustment for myself. Just talking felt weird, and this week I finally got to eat some real food, so I'm in a really good mood right now, man. I'm in a really good place despite the fact that the Chiefs continue to struggle, and trust me when I say we're going to be addressing all of that today as we go forward in the season. Chiefs got over 12 games left for the season. Will they make the playoffs? There's a lot of questions, not a lot of answers, but we promise you we're going to try to give you guys a lot of answers. We have the Eddie Hour. We are going to be joined by Fox 4's sports analyst and sports anchor, Mr. Harold Kuntz, which I cannot wait to get to his thoughts and his opinions on everything that is going on in the world of the Kansas City Chiefs. We got you guys in the Monday mailbag. We're going to break down the Chiefs versus the Washington football team coming up this Sunday. And of course, we're going to be handing out some L's in the world of sports because there's plenty of them out there. And I cannot wait to unpack those L's this week, guys. Christmas is always every single week for us, the Spoken Podcast. We're unwrapping those bad boys. So I want to start here because I was at the game last Sunday night, and I will tell you guys right now, I was not expecting to be there on Sunday. Our guy Shaggy Shane hit me up Sunday afternoon. Me and Trevor chilling on the couch watching football, and getting geared up and ready to go on this, for this Sunday night game against the Buffalo Bills, biggest game of the season for both teams to that point. And Shaggy hit me up, and he's like, "Hey man, come with me to the game. I got a ticket available, and I'll just hook you up." And I was like, "Sweet." It's row 7, and right there in the action. I was like, "Let's do it, man. I don't care if the weather's going to be bad." You get an opportunity to be at Arrowhead, you got to take it, especially in a game this big with that magnitude, and the Chiefs being able to, answer back. And although I was amped up and ready to go, and I went into the stadium, for some reason there was this demeanor, a unique demeanor that came over me where I didn't want to watch this game as a fan. And I know that sounds weird, but it's true. I wanted to watch this game more as an analyst of football and an analyst of the Chiefs. And I'm not sitting here trying to call myself anything, but I do analyze this team. And a lot of times it's after I watch the game. I usually watch the game more as a fan and then go back and just try to break the game down. Well, in this one, I wanted to watch this game in live action as just somebody who's more of an analytical perspective, because this was a game that the Chiefs were really going to tell us what they are at this time. And my biggest fear after a few weeks in the season was the Chiefs are not what we thought they were going to be. And I don't believe that the Chiefs are as bad as they look currently, but I think we all can agree that they are not what we expected them to be. Both can be true. And when that Bills game started and the Chiefs got the ball first, I kind of took that as not a disrespect, but actually a respect from the Bills. Most times the Chiefs, regardless of whether they win the toss or not, are kicking first, because a lot of teams want to go out there and score on them first and want to, make the offense try to have to counter them and play catch up. Well, the Bills did something very interesting. They won the toss and they told the Chiefs, "Hey, you guys try to score on us first. We're confident in our defense, and we think that we can take it to you, and then we're going to counter you with our offense and then get the ball at the beginning of the second half." Well, the Chiefs went out there with a golden opportunity. They were moving the ball early in that first drive. But then they settled with a field goal, and I got to be honest with you guys, once that happened, I got really nervous. I got really nervous because I felt that if the Chiefs couldn't go out there and score early, they were going to struggle all night to score. And I had a serene feeling, and I think a lot of you guys had the same serene feeling, that the Bills were going to go out there and do what they wanted to do on offense. We talked about this last week on the show about the game was going to be decided on third downs and how well the Chiefs can counter the Bills' attack on offense. Now, the Bills came into this game banged up on both sides of the ball. They were missing their starting linebacker in Matt Milano, who missed last year's regular season game, and the Chiefs exposed that all day and all night during that game in Buffalo. And then you saw on the offensive side, you saw that the Bills' offensive line had some banged-up guys as well. Dawson Knox had a knee injury, I believe, going into that game, and he was actually leading the team in touchdowns to that point. And I felt that the Chiefs had an opportunity, a real opportunity, despite the fact they didn't have Chris Jones in this game, to show us that this defense does have some life in them. And I don't want to break the whole game down. I just want to tell you guys my approach to the beginning of the game and how I felt at the end of it. And I did a post-game with Shaggy Shane after that game at Arrowhead Stadium. I gave him my immediate reactions. And I'm going to be honest with you. I felt about as numb as my face still feels after going to the dentist last week. Because of the fact that this is not what I'm expecting from this team. Is it something that I'm okay with? No. But the Chiefs are not the best team in football. And it's been proven now over a 5-week stretch. Now, before I go any further in saying these things and Trevor and Eddie give their takes on the Chiefs as currently constructed, I do believe that the Chiefs can get better. Because like I said, I don't think they're as bad as they look at this time. But one thing I can say and will definitively say and continue to say and will die on this hill gladly is if the Chiefs don't make any changes, this is who they're going to be. Exactly what they are now. Look, I'm going to say this. Patrick Mahomes is struggling. Despite the fact that he's second in the league in touchdown passes, only because Tom Brady played before he did this week. And he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league as far as any other statistic out there. Quarterback rating, QBR, passing yards, yards per attempt, all those things. He has turned the ball over, though, 6 times. And I did some thinking this week. A few days after the game, I like to just kind of decompress and just, like I said, watch the game again. And I only watch this game as from somebody from an analytical perspective. And I got to tell you guys, there is math to everything that's going on with Patrick Mahomes. And I'm not trying to be an apologist here. But think about this. In 2018, when Patrick Mahomes first took over as the Kansas City Chiefs starting quarterback, he had 12 interceptions that season. And to his standard, to this point now in his 4th season as a starter, that's a lot. Because in the next 2 seasons after 2018, he had a combined 11 interceptions. And now this year, he has his 2nd most interceptions in a single season already through 5 weeks. Is there any coincidence to any of you guys that the 2 worst defenses Patrick Mahomes has ever had in his career was in 2018 and in 2021? He's pressing. I know he's going to say he's not. Because he's a captain of this team, he's a leader of this team, and he's not going to throw his defense under the bus like that. But he's pressing. Because this defense is absolutely atrocious. And it's not just because of Daniel Sorensen. I heard Steve Spagnuolo breaking this shit down about, well, it can't just be all on Dan Sorensen. We can't all just blame Dan Sorensen. No one is, Spags. No one is sitting here and saying this is all on Daniel Sorensen. What we are saying, though, is the guy's a fucking sieve. He's a gaping hole at safety. And you guys traded up for Juan Thornhill just 2 seasons ago in the 2nd round. And the dude is playing less than 25% of the snaps, whereas Daniel Sorensen played 100% of the snaps against the Bills, regardless of how many touchdowns and first downs he was giving up all night long. I had front row seats to that. Patrick Mahomes knows that's the problem here. Patrick Mahomes understands that his defense is not going to give him the stops. Now, I know, late in the game, the Chiefs' defense did get some stops, but it was 24-13 in the first half. The Bills did not break a sweat on offense for the first 3 drives. It looked easy and methodical for Josh Allen and his offense. There was literally no pressure. There was literally no protection in the middle of the field. There was literally no effort on the Chiefs' defense. And you wonder why Patrick Mahomes is pressing. You wonder why he's throwing the ball in the dirt. There was a play in the first half where Patrick Mahomes had 8 seconds in the pocket. 8 seconds! And no one was open. And then Tyreek Hill in the red zone gets an opportunity. The ball hits him right in the hands. And he does a tip drill. And it goes right into the defender's hands. These are the types of instances and mistakes an offense makes, regardless of how great they are, when your defense is giving up historically the most yards per play. There's no mystery to what's happening. This Chiefs team as a whole is struggling. But there's reasons why. I talked to our guy Clay Windler, our producer, and I love him to death, but we had a debate this week about this very thing. He said, I believe this defense can get 10 spots better. And he was referencing the 2019 season. But see, here's the problem. I'm sorry, he was talking about the 2015 season, not the 2019 season, at least in this conversation. And the problem I had with that exact comparison is, one, that was 6 years ago. There are 3 guys on this roster that were on that 2015 team, and one of them is Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, who hasn't played in 2 years for the Chiefs. The other are Travis Kelce and Daniel Sorensen. That defense in 2015 had the 3rd most sacks in the league and the 2nd most interceptions, with a rookie Marcus Peters with 8 interceptions. Who on this defense is going to have 8 interceptions this year? This team even looking like a top 25 team in sacks? No. They have 7 sacks in 5 games. That team in 2015 had 19 sacks in their first 10 games. You can't compare them. And we got to stop making comparisons. Because this defense is the worst defense I have ever seen. And I'm not over-exaggerating that. And it doesn't do Chris Jones any favors when we have guys like Joe Thuney out there playing with a broken hand for all 4 quarters. And Chris Jones has missed going to be 4 games. I'm sorry, he'll be 4 games next week with a hand contusion or wrist contusion. There are no excuses. This team had Super Bowl aspirations coming into this year, and against a team that was motivated and driven by losing in the AFC Championship in that same house of Arrowhead, came in here and beat the shit out of the Chiefs, not once, but twice. It looked like Tim Orman hitting X Factor. We can sit here and make excuses. We can sit here and say, I don't think they're going to continue to struggle like this. But guys, when you see teams that the Chiefs have to take seriously come in here and kick their ass all up and down the field in their own house, and then give up 461 yards and 30 points to a team like the Eagles, who have struggled in literally every other game except the Chiefs game, you have to start asking yourself, can this team stop anybody on the defensive side? And if they can't, how much more is Patrick Mahomes going to have to press? And how many more mistakes is this offense going to make? And do they have a legitimate shot at doing anything in the playoffs if they get there at all? Trevor, I want to start with you. What was your takeaway from this Bills game?
Wow. Yeah, where to start? Yeah, we're a bad team right now. Let's just start with that. We are definitely not what we were expecting. I feel silly for a lot of the predictions that we did to start the year. And it's not just us. Obviously, I would say most people had us at the tops of the list. I mean, regardless of where we're at right now, Chiefs are still a favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. They're still in the mix for all the top awards and everything. So the predictions still stand. This is a long season. Things could definitely change. I'm not worried about the offense. The turnovers will go away. But the turnovers are neck and neck with the defense for the biggest problems of why this team is struggling so much. I mean, 11 through 5 weeks is absolutely unacceptable. I think we're second in the league in turnovers next to the Jaguars with a rookie quarterback and a terrible roster top to bottom. We are a very, very good roster top to bottom with the best quarterback in the league, and there's no excuse for 11 turnovers. Absolutely unacceptable. Granted, a good amount of these interceptions, I'd say about half of these interceptions are not really on Pat. A lot of them are tip drill type plays, and literally the ball just going right through the hands of typically sure-handed receivers. That Tyreek one last week is just something you just got to live with, man. That's something that doesn't happen. Tyreek is a very sure-handed receiver, especially when it hits him right in the numbers. That was just an anomalous. It just feels like every week so far we've been having these anomalous type plays that just do not work in our favor. We cannot catch a break. I mean, even in the Baltimore game, it couldn't have started out any better. 2 straight picks, and one of them was a pick 6 to Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, most teams win those games. The fact we lost that game because we decided to turn the ball over more, and our defense decided just to lay down and take it. We are not a competitive team right now at most points of each game. I mean, we're not confident at all. As far as this Buffalo game goes, man, I mean, I wasn't confident at all. And I got to say, after watching that game, moving forward, I typically have the highest of expectations for this Chiefs team going into every week. When I make my picks, I'm confident that the Chiefs have far and away the better chance of winning the game, no matter who the opposition is. I don't feel that way anymore. I have lost all expectations. I'm now in the mode where I need them to prove it to me week in, week out. I got to see it. Just like when we were doing the predictions for the Eagles game, and you're talking about, this is a blow-up spot for this offense. Andy Reid needs to go out there and put his foot down and blow a team out, which we typically we kind of did in that game, and there were some garbage time points for the Eagles, but at the same time, we left as much as we scored 40+, we still left a lot of points on the board. On the field, I mean.
So did the Eagles.
Right. Sure. There were some. We caught some breaks in that game, some penalties that were not very good. But like I said, even in that game, when I told you, I needed to see a blowout before I can expect one. I still didn't really feel satisfied in that. That wasn't what I wanted to see. I still need to see that. I still need to see this team put it together. I still need to see Spags make some adjustments. This defense, I'm just gonna say this defense is the worst in the league. We could talk about the Bucs being the worst secondary in the league. We could talk about the Jags maybe being one of the worst defenses in Detroit. I don't think there's a more embarrassing defense to watch right now than the Chiefs' defense. I think we're the most embarrassing because of the expectations, because of the championship caliber team, because of us coming off of back-to-back Super Bowl appearances. Regardless of what you want to say about the defense in the past couple seasons, they weren't great defenses by any means, but they were still good enough to get you there. This team is the worst defense in the league. I think we're allowing a record yards per play. They were almost 8 yards per play. That's a record-setting it's everything. I mean, we're allowing, I think, the second most points by like 0.3 points per week. So, it's defense. I mean, there's not much I need to dive into, man. Chris Jones got to get his shit together. Chris Jones has got to get to a quarterback. I think what the biggest problem is with this defense, I think we don't have an identity, and the fact that we can't find an identity and or a strength to lean into and just be that and learn and depend on other things to break our way elsewhere is making it the most. That's what's making it that's the biggest key in the cog for this defense to why it's struggling so much, because we don't know if we're a blitzing defense. We don't know if we're a cover 2 defense and make you play underneath. And when we make you play underneath, teams are just going to eat underneath and just get the yards after the catch and just destroy us either way. I think most of our talent is up front, and we need to showcase that. I think a lot of our guys up front don't really know what to do a lot of times because I think Spags has guys doing too much.
Yeah.
I think Spags needs to just look, towards the end of that Buffalo Bills game, our defense looked good blitzing. We need to blitz our safeties more. We need to blitz our corners more. We need to mix it up and disguise them, but we need to blitz. We need to be a blitz defense.
The problem with that the only issue I take with that stance though, because I do agree in desperate times, you got to take desperate measures. The problem though is that you can't rely on that for the entirety of a season. You have to be able to have a reliability from your guys who are initial blitzers and rushers. You got to be able to get your front four
right
to get adequate pressure. And when guys like Chris Jones and Frank Clark not only can't get on the field at the same time, but are just missing multiple games at a time. And real side note on this whole Chris Jones thing that I want to add here is the fact that if he's going to miss 3 to 4 games, why didn't the Chiefs just put him on the IR so you can open up a roster spot and get somebody else to come up and help? Because if he's not going to play for 3 or 4 weeks, put him on the IR. Same with Charvarius Ward. You get 3-4 week IRs.
Yeah.
Just do that and open up a roster spot.
I don't think this is Chris Jones making that decision, though, dude. I think this is. You tell me Chris Jones doesn't want to be out there.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying from the Chiefs' perspective.
Yeah,
yes.
I get that, but I'm saying I fully 100% believe Chris Jones wants to be playing regardless of this wrist issue.
Yeah.
I think this is a coach's decision, just like it was with Tyrone when he was eligible to play. We held him out because of COVID, whatever. I still think Tyrone absolutely wanted to be on that field regardless. This is not a player's issue. I just want to say, as far as this offense goes, the turnovers, man, are one thing, but Pat's got to take responsibility. You said he's pressing. That's Pat's fault if he's pressing. Pat has to take what the defense is giving him. If the defenses know your defense is these opposing defenses know your defense is that bad, and they know you're going to be pressing, and they're allowing you to play underneath, dude, there's too many times we have underneath passes and checkdowns that Pat's just not taking. Pat's got to be better than, and I think he knows that too. That's one of the reasons Pat's been struggling, why the turnovers have been becoming a thing, is because he is forcing throws downfield, and their teams are doubling up on Kelsey. They're doubling up on Tyreek at times. Obviously, there's been some bonehead tip drill passes, but as far as the offense goes, Pat's got to get more discipline and take what the defense is giving him, because this is uncharted territory, man. We're not used to this. Pat's been a guy that's pressed before in his college days. That's literally all he did. But he also threw a hell of a lot of picks in college as well. So it's a trend. This is becoming a trend. Pat's got to start taking what the defense is giving him. He's got to be a little more disciplined in that sense. Granted, he's either taking the shot downfield or he's running for it. There's got to be more to the game than that. He's got to take those check down passes. Granted, that check down pass to Tyreek became a pick. That was an underneath throw, and I get that. We need to see more of that, and that's just an unfortunate play. But there's numerous times
I would say
Clyde
though,
was wide open in a check down, or Darryl was wide open in a check down. These guys are rolling out. He's passing on way too many of those, dude. And those can become huge plays.
I don't know if I necessarily agree with him not taking the checkdowns though,
because watch the games.
I get that, but I'm saying against the Eagles, he was averaging 9.3 yards an attempt. Last week against the Buffalo Bills, he only averaged 5 yards attempt. So he was throwing the ball down. He was throwing the ball down, and what was happening was that guys weren't catching the ball, and he was throwing the dirt because guys weren't open. I'm seeing in front of me.
There was a lot of terrible throws from Pat.
I'm not saying it wasn't. I'm not saying there weren't. He was averaging 5 yards an average.
There were more than just a few throws where he threw them at their feet, and literally wide open wide receivers. And
last week might have been the worst game I've ever seen from Pat.
Yes.
I think
absolutely.
And then 20 points from the Chiefs is just an unheard of thing. It's just the Bills played a great defensive game, man.
He kept missing throws. You can't deny
there's a lot of throws in the dirt.
You can't just say it's like, because the defense is terrible, Mahomes is terrible.
But I'm
not saying that he was bad because the defense is bad. What I'm saying is there's so much more of an emphasis of him being perfect because of the standard he has set in his own regard that now when he's not playing well, guys, there's math to it. Think about it. Patrick Mahomes,
that's not the right thing to do, though, is what I'm saying. Pressing is not what you want to do. That's what you're playing into what the defense is wanting you to do. You understand what I'm saying, right? Because the defenses know there's even more of an emphasis on us putting up points.
So you guys saw you guys saw a different game than I did, because I don't know about you, I didn't see open guys.
No, we all saw the exact same game. You're placating.
I know you're saying that there was a bunch of open guys. He was just missing them. Where are those open guys at?
Underneath,
yeah.
Dude, go watch the game again. There's
he averaged
so many
5 yards an attempt. That is screen passes.
I'm talking about in the flat. I'm talking about the lateral plays.
Open.
Dude, McCole Hardman, Darrell Williams, Pringle. There's guys that are like that are wide open in the flat. Pat doesn't look sideline to sideline. He's always looking downfield.
There's a pass where he could have thrown to Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who was wide open, who could have gotten at least 25 yards because there was literally nobody covering him. He decided to throw at Travis Kelce's feet when he was like double covered.
It's either he's throwing downfield or he's running it.
He needs to like.
He's saying when you're averaging 5 yards an attempt, that means you're throwing a lot of dink and dunks. You're throwing when you go from 9 yards an attempt in a game previous to 5 yards in the next game, that means you've changed your game plan and game style completely. You're playing a much different game. That's what I'm saying. You're averaging half the yards per attempt, not completion, per attempt.
Was there a lot of dink and dunks against the Bills, Lance?
Yes, there was, and there's a lot of incompletions.
No, there wasn't.
That's the point. Yes,
there were short passes. They were not dink and dunks. Dink and dunks are designed plays to play underneath.
The point I'm making in all this, guys, is that this is all math adding up to why that game style is playing. You're right that it plays into what the defense.
Dink and dunk and be pressing. That's not how that works.
I honestly don't see. I don't see that. I feel like you're trying to make. This is just my opinion. I feel like you're trying to make an excuse for why Patrick Mahomes is terrible.
He was just bad last week.
He wasn't terrible.
He was bad
to his standard, he was, but he wasn't a terrible. Guys, we gotta look. This is what I'm talking about. We have to sit here and be honest about why things are happening the way they are.
We do.
Did the Chiefs win a single game this season if Patrick Mahomes isn't playing the way he's played?
You're making that into an argument. I'm not saying.
I'm saying guys, the math adds up.
This is a week by week game, dude.
The reason he's pressing.
This last game. He was pressing too much, and I agree. You're the one that said he was pressing.
Right.
He absolutely was, and that's not what you're supposed to do.
So what is he supposed to do?
Control what you can control. He doesn't play defense. He has to do his job the most efficient way possible. Turning it over is the last thing you do if you know your defense is bad.
But you guys
pressing leads to turnovers.
Okay,
that's what I'm saying.
You do realize that both of his interceptions weren't on him, right?
Dude, it's not just interceptions. It's
you just said turnovers.
Yes, 11. We have 11.
How many of his turnovers?
How many of Patrick Mahomes? Nervous.
Yes, he is 100%. I just said that. How many? Hold on, no, name them. Please name them. How many of Patrick Mahomes' interceptions to this season are on him?
So
and tell me which ones.
The interception. No, Lance. The interception to Tyreek obviously is dismissed. That's a tip pass. And the other one was what?
When the defender jumped up and tipped the ball.
Right. The straight took it from him.
Yeah, it went straight up.
That's not on Pat.
It was a freak play.
That's still Pat's fault. He threw it pick. It's a great defensive play, but it's also Pat that turned it over.
That's what I'm saying, Trevor, is when a defender makes...
You can't just
when the ball gets tipped to the line of scrimmage, you can't put that on the quarterback. Because the ball is tipped by a guy who is getting the ball, a great anticipatory play. So you got to give credit to the defense. It's a great play from the defense. That's my point. The point I'm trying to make, guys, is he's pressing because he knows he has to score on every drive. And so, therefore, when he makes mistakes, it gets amplified, and it looks like he's making mistakes that are on him when they're really not. He has to press because he doesn't have support.
Every time the offense touches the field, the goal is to score points.
And they're doing it better than every team besides two.
If you're pressing, you're going to be more turnover prone. You're going to be more prone to mistakes because you're playing nervous. I'm just saying, Pat can't do that. Pat, at this point, defenses know that's what Pat's doing. Mm-hmm. That's why the turnovers like the guy tipping it and catching it at the line, because he knows Pat's got to get it out quick.
That happens regardless of what the context is.
Okay, I'm just not all the time. That's not something that happens often.
So those only happen when a quarterback's pressing?
No. I'm saying defenses know. Defenses know. Why do you think the Buffalo Bills give the Chiefs the ball first? Because they're confident in themselves and they know that Pat's got to go out there.
No, because they know that the defense can't stop them.
Okay, Lance. You know that was not something most teams do. Most teams want the ball first.
So you're telling me the Bills were not expecting Patrick Mahomes to go out there and do what he normally does?
What do you mean?
The Bills went into that game
you started your whole rant off because you were talking about how confident the Bills are. They're going to go out there and do what they do.
Right.
Okay.
I'm talking about it was 24-13 at half.
Okay.
The Bills knew they were going to come in here and score points.
And the Bills have dropped 2 40-plus burgers.
So what I'm saying is they were willing to give the Chiefs the ball first because they knew no matter what Patrick Mahomes did that night, they were going to get theirs on offense. They knew they were going to do what they wanted against the Chiefs defense.
That's been absolutely rolling this year. That's a top 5 defense right now this year. So I mean,
probably the best defense.
That's what I'm saying. So and they did nothing but destroy our offense.
I'm just saying though, in one game, even though think about this though. Think about this for just a second though, and we're going to move on. I want to get Eddie's thoughts, and we're going to move along. Think about this for a second. The Bills going into that game gave up 44 points, and even though the Chiefs struggled, they scored almost 50% of the points the Bills have given up to that point in the season a month afterwards. They played 4 previous games, and the Chiefs scored almost 50% of the points they allowed, despite the Chiefs struggling. So think about that.
I'm going to say this. Accountabilities need to be taken all around. If we're going to hold Spags accountable for the absolute shit show he's been doing so far this year, putting guys in places they don't belong, and just finding a fucking identity for this defense, whether it's being a bend-don't-break defense, playing more soft coverage, or becoming a blitz defense, which I think we need to do. We need to be more aggressive and just fucking get pressure on quarterbacks. We're not getting any. That's what I think we do. But Spags is going to take responsibility. If Andy Reid's going to take responsibility for some bad scripts and the way we're starting games and falling flat on our opening drives, he needs to take responsibility. Tyreek Hill needs to take responsibility for his tipping and dropping straight easy passes. Patrick Mahomes also got to take responsibility for playing nervous, not taking what the defense is giving him. We gotta just be more efficient offensively instead of making the big splash play, which we're used to. As we're saying, this is uncharted territory especially for the offense. We're not a turnover offense, man. This is something new that we're dealing with. I mean, I think we plateaued a little bit. I really do. I think we plateaued. I don't think the league has figured us out. I think the Chiefs have plateaued a little bit offensively. We're kind of resting on our laurels with our talent. We know what we have. We just got to put it together and just become more of an efficient instead of depending on big plays here and there to blow teams out and then sit on our lead. Responsibility. Everybody's gonna take accountability.
Yeah, I 100% agree with what Trevor's saying. It's just Patrick Mahomes, him being the leader of that offense, he needs to take responsibility of his mistakes, same as Tyreek, and that would hopefully help the offense be like, okay, if the leader's taking responsibility for his actions, that means we also need to take our responsibility and play better. And it's just kind of have to be a collective kind of thing. And then with the defense, the same thing. It's just kind of like they got to start taking that responsibility and pretty much saying like, yeah, we're shit. I mean, we'll try better week in, week out from here on out. It's like
changes got to be made.
Exactly. There has to be some kind of changes because our defense cannot get any pressures on any quarterback. Any quarterback. Their offensive line can be the worst in the NFL, and probably this defense won't even touch them. It's just getting so bad, and with Chris Jones dealing with the whole wrist injury, I don't know how serious it is. I don't know. But if Joe Thuney is going to play 4 quarters, I agree with that. If he's going to play 4 quarters with a broken fucking wrist, you can play with the fucking wrist contusion. Just put a cast in that bitch.
I think it's a coaching call, man, unfortunately. I think Chris Jones wants to be out there.
I think at the end of the day, it's what he tells the doctors, and the doctors then give that feedback to the coach, and then the coach makes the call. I think it comes down to that because with the whole Joe Thuney, how come he's out there?
Yeah, and I don't ever want to be the guy that compares injuries. I don't want to sit here and say that Chris Jones is soft or anything like that.
Thuney is a fractured hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Thuney broke.
And he's never missed a game in his career. So I believe the streak is also a thing that
offensive linemen are just different people. I'm just gonna say that offensive linemen are just different, man.
Yeah, but I think Chris Jones being that leader of the team, I think he could definitely step up and be like, hey, you know what, my wrist does hurt, but I think a cast would help. Just cast me up, and I want to be out there.
Yeah.
I think it all comes down as to what he tells the doctors, kind of like what the doctors see from him in the week leading to the game, and then the doctors giving their diagnosis to the coach, being like, hey, his wrist, according to Chris Jones, his wrist still hurts to where he cannot not move his hand or something. Then the coach goes off of that, and they're like, okay, if he can't move his wrist, then he's not going to do anything on the field, then we need him to do something on the field. So it all comes down as to what the patient gives the doctor, and that's what the doctor gives the doc. Kind of like when you go for a checkup. It all comes down to that. So I think if Chris Jones was to be that leader, I'm not playing down his injury. I'm not saying it's not a serious injury, but if it is, I agree with you. He should have went into the IR if his injury was that serious.
And Chris Jones obviously didn't play this week. And real quick, before we get to the Eddie Hour, just real fast, I just want to get your guys' thoughts real quick. How much of a difference do you believe Chris Jones would have made in this game against the Bills? Because honestly, I don't think it would have done all that much because we've seen all season what opposing offenses are doing. They're strategizing. They know on the other side there is zero pressure coming, so they can just negate and just avoid Chris Jones altogether.
But I guess you can counter that with you're going to have Chris Jones and Frank Clark. You're going to have to double up somebody. So then you can have the middle. Let's say you can have the middle maybe kind of put that small little pressure on Josh Allen. All we needed was to put a little bit of pressure on Josh Allen. We know what he does under pressure.
But then Josh Allen just run right.
No, but I know.
Hey, Jaron Reed, I'm going to run right by you.
I get
Touchdown.
it. No, I get it. But I'd say that little bit of pressure can change the whole thing because then Josh Allen can get into that. Josh Allen, we know when he gets under pressure, kind of just miss those throws.
We got to blitz more.
Yeah.
It's just we got to do something.
When we started blitzing was in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken.
It looked good.
And
Snead,
they look great.
Tyrann Mathieu.
We had 2 fucking third and outs. I think it was on that.
Tyrann Mathieu was this close to a pick six.
And if it wasn't for her horrific roughing the passer penalty on Frank Clark, that's another stop the Chiefs have right there.
And the Chiefs offense did not capitalize on that. They did not went out there and capitalize.
That's why I believe that
this.
that's why I said, guys, I don't believe this team is as bad as they look. I don't think they're going to be the worst defense of all time, but they might legitimately be the 31st ranked defense this season.
This is why I think the defense needs to become pick something.
Yeah.
Lean into something. That's why I think if we become because we have talent up front. If we just become a blitzing defense, blitz the hell out of let Bolton just get in there and do his thing. Just let him crash in there and just dive bomb and just bull rush everybody. Bring corners and safeties off the edge. If we become a team that everyone knows they're going to bring pressure, and then you can disguise that, maybe zone out every once in a while, and then that's when picks become a thing. That's when we got to bring pressure regardless, man. We can't be a soft defense because we're soft already.
And this shows that the coaching does not like our secondary. The coaching is kind of like concerned. Yeah, it has no trust. It's not concerned. That's why he's not blitzing, because he doesn't trust our secondary to make that stop in case they were to make that throw. And that just tells you that this is more of a coaching issue than it is a player's issue.
Yeah.
This is kind of like it all comes down to Spags and his style of play and him not trusting his players to what they can potentially do out on the field.
We got tight ends burning us 50-plus yards down the field. It's just...
Well, let's try to leave that game as much in the past as possible from our perspective and our own mental side of things, and hopefully for the Chiefs as well, and they can grow from that as well. And we got a game to definitely break down later on in the show when the Chiefs versus the Washington football team out there in Washington in the D.C. area. But we need to get to the Eddie Hour because we have our guy Harold Coons coming up in just a few minutes. So let's get to Eddie's thoughts on what he's got going on this week. What's in the Eddie Hour, Eddie?
Oh, man, let's go to MLB straight away.
Okay.
We saw an epic series on Thursday end on Game 5 of the divisional round between the Giants and the Dodgers. I think by far the best series so far in the major league playoffs. I want to get your reactions, your thoughts to that Game 5 series and to that call that ended that game. I don't know if you guys saw the game, but to end the game, they called a strike on Flores, if I'm not mistaken, where he checked his swing. And they said that he went around, but then you saw the replay, and it turns out that it could potentially had been the wrong call.
Oh, it wasn't potentially. It absolutely was the wrong call. They should not have called that a third strike. He did not go around. The rule is you can't have the bat go across the plate, and if it crosses the plate, it is a strike on a check swing. He did not. He checked his swing. It was a perfectly checked swing. He should have been able to get another life on that one, and who's to say what could have taken place. But here's the thing, man. As I told you guys from the beginning, that I was going to, until somebody can show me why the Dodgers aren't going to get back to the World Series and win, that I'm going to stick with that. I think the Giants are an incredible team, and they were so evenly matched throughout the season. They faced, I think, 29 total times, and they went, I think, 15-14, if I'm not mistaken. Dodgers 15-14. Their run differential, ERA, everything, home runs, everything was almost identical throughout the season, not just head-to-head, but for the entire season. These teams were so evenly matched, and it really sucks. That wasn't the NLCS. Unfortunately, it was the series right before, but I'm not going to put that as the reason they lost the series. I do think it obviously played its part, just like if a bad call takes place in a game when it comes to the NFL. We know that isn't the reason the game was lost because the players have to make the decisions, but it can play its part, and it did. But the Dodgers, to me, are just the better team in my personal opinion because they've already done this on numerous occasions. Like 3 of the last 4 World Series the Dodgers have been in. So this is a dynasty budding in front of us, guys, and I think that it just makes sense that the Dodgers, sometimes those favorable calls just fall for the team that I think is a better team. I think sometimes you just get those lucky breaks, and unfortunately for the Giants, who had an incredible season, that's how their season ended. And if I was a Giants fan, I'd be absolutely livid.
Well, look, the MLB's rigged. We all know this, right? So we all know that the Dodgers are the darling, and the league wants the darling. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to say, Fox Mulder took over Trevor's body.
Look, man, there's good breaks and there's bad breaks in sports in general, and there's also human error. Especially in baseball, there's so much to the game. There's so much you got to pay attention to, and the calls are what they are. I mean, this happens in all sports, man. There's always a call that's 50-50. It's called one way, and when it's called one way, it's hard to overturn certain things. It is what it is. It was a great run by San Fran, man. It was fun to watch. exciting team. Two teams that are in the same state that are not far from each other. There's a little rivalry becoming there. It was a good series. Maybe like you said, the best series probably so far. That Boston one going on right now is pretty good.
Oh, that was great
That was a great game one last night. Yeah, that came down to one run.
Exactly.
So, yeah. So I mean, this is baseball's the postseason has been great so far. It's been a lot of good games. I didn't get to watch a lot of the series because a lot of times I'm at work and a lot of these games are going on. But like I said, I picked the Dodgers. I think they're the better team. The better team won this series. San Fran, hell of a run, but yeah. I mean, you can't bring it down to one call or one missed call, one bad call. There's hundreds of plays, hundreds of things going on in between all of that. So kudos to the Giants for that run, but the Dodgers, in my mind, are just the better team, and they came out on top.
You know what this reminded me of? I don't know if you guys remember that perfect game that was ruined by that umpire.
Oh yeah. Who was that? That was which pitcher was that?
I can't remember the pitcher. The one that it was ruined by the umpire.
Oh, you're talking about the
Detroit.
Tigers, Galarraga.
Yeah.
That he was 1 out away from getting
that.
And I
Oh,
think
my
this
God.
game, this call was just as crucial as that call. I believe so because
It
this
was
cost
deciding.
this cost the Giants a legitimate shot at actually tying the game and potentially
that's rough.
going up. So
if I'm a fan of the Giants, that's hard to take.
yes. Whew. All right, man. We have the NBA coming up here shortly. Our predictions are going to be here. I'm sure
Yeah,
kind
baby.
of going to be coming up. I believe the season starts
Best time of
next
year.
week. I believe the season starts next week, right? So our predictions are probably going to come next weekend. My question to you is, what 3 teams are your favorites to win the NBA title?
I think this one's probably pretty easy. And this, I think it's only because I think there's only 3 teams that can legitimately win the title this year. I know there are good teams in the NBA, but there's not a lot of great teams in the NBA. My favorite by far is the Los Angeles Lakers. I know that they haven't won a single preseason game to this point, but that's not their focus. They're not trying to win games in the preseason. They're trying to master their craft, and that's what they're going to do. You see the way that Russell Westbrook and LeBron James are already building their chemistry, and once those guys click, the team is going to click. I think this team's going to lead the league in assists. I think they might be one of the better defensive teams in the league as well because they got a lot of size back with Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan, 2 guys on the last limbs but can play 10 to 15 minutes a game and give you those good defensive stops. I think the Bucks have to be up there. They are a team that I think deserves all the credit. I know a lot of things went their way in the last postseason run, but Giannis Antetokounmpo is arguably the best player in the world, and they have one of the best rosters in the NBA, and I think that team's going to be right back to where they were, which is at least in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Nets should be because they have 2 of the best players in the entire NBA, and I think that you have a good enough roster to get them to the finals. Their problem is the distractions with Kyrie, and hopefully we get to talk about that later in the show. If Kyrie comes back, this team is the favorite out of the East. I do believe that because they just have too much talent, and if they can stay healthy, they will get there. But I just don't think without Kyrie, they're going to have enough to beat the Bucks, and I'm sure we'll talk about that more next week. So those are my 3 teams, and I think that's kind of an easy assumed statement.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of teams I think will take a step back. I think the Suns are one of those teams that will take a step back. They had a hot run. I think they're taking a step back this year. They got some things. Granted, still a very talented team. The Chicago Bulls are a sleeper team, too. They loaded up with talent. But, yeah, I think top of my list is the Lakers. I just think they're, with the experience, the athleticism, the shooting, I think they have good shooters over there, regardless of what people think. A lot of playmakers on that team, and I think they're going to be a really sound defense once again. I think they were the best defense in the league last year. I think that continues. So I think the Lakers are the best team right now, and they look really good in the preseason so far. And I think I got to say the Nets. I mean, they were one of my favorites last year too. There's just too much talent, and when you have a talented team like that in the NBA with multiple superstars on the team, that's hard to overlook. So I think the Nets are right there as well. I want to see what the Sixers do, what they make, what move they make. But I mean, yeah, you got in the East the Bucks for sure. It's probably the Lakers, Bucks, and Nets. But my sleeper team in the West is the Mavericks. I liked them a lot last year, and they keep losing these tight series. Granted, Luka hasn't played anybody else but the Clippers, so he's played some.
That's so weird, isn't it?
It is weird, but Luka is a fucking playoff superstar. That guy shines in the biggest moments, and I think that's only going to hold him back for so long. I think he's ready just to absolutely take over this league. I love Luka Doncic so much. I think that guy's an absolute superstar. I think the Mavericks are a sleeper team, and don't sleep on the Warriors either, man. Heading this year, Clay's going to be back. So depending on what they do, they still have Wiggins. They still got some guys, and Steph's been absolutely ridiculous last year. And if that continues, that's a scary team too.
He's
So
hot in the
they still got Draymond.
preseason.
That's still the core's still there. So I mean, in the West is watered down a little bit. There's some things that in flux in the West. So that leaves room for the Warriors to be a top 3 seed in the West. Depending on what the Nuggets do and Jazz, if any of those teams take a step back, the Warriors are going to be right there. So those are kind of a couple teams to keep an eye on. But yeah, the top 3 I think are kind of the obvious ones. The Bucks, obviously defending champs, the Nets, just too much talent, and then obviously the Lakers.
Gotcha. Let's stay with NBA. So Tyler Hero, is that how you say his name? Hero? But Tyler Hero stated that his name should be next to Luka, Ja, and Trey.
Look, you guys know how big Trevor and I have had many debates about Tyler Hero and what I think he's going to be. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to average. He's going to average over 20 points per game for the next several seasons. I think this guy is a natural scorer. He's tall. He's young and athletic. I think that this is going to be
up too. He's got some muscle.
And he's surprisingly good as a distributor too. He averaged about 3-4 assists last season as a guy that just simply shoots. So that's something. And he's he's only 21 years old.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to develop. He's already showing it in preseason. The dude's averaging like 25 a game in the preseason right now. So I think that he's clearly not up there with Luka. Luka's one of the 5-10 best players in the NBA. So Tyler Hero's nowhere near that. But could I see Tyler Hero within the next 2 years be a top 25 player? Yeah, absolutely. I can definitely see that because he's just
Luka
that
was
good at
winning
shooting.
national championships at 15.
Right.
So.
But to the point of Tyler Hero is a top 10 pick in the draft 3 years ago. There's a reason why. This guy is a very talented player coming out of Kentucky, and we all know Kentucky usually rolls over some really good NBA players. I don't think Hero has an elite player status coming his way, but could this guy be a Peja Stojakovic type player, like a Peja light, where he's a knockdown 3-point shooter that can create his own shot, things and a really good passer like Peja was? Yeah, I could see that. So that's where I see Tyler Hero's career going.
I don't dislike Tyler Hero at all. Matter of fact, I like his game. I like his game a lot. I liked his game when he was in college as well. I think
On and off the court.
He's got a lot of yeah. My boy's got game all the way around. No, I like him. I think he's getting a little overpraised for what he's done or not done. I think he's in a really good spot though. I think Miami's a great place for him to breed and become a man in this league. I think it's a good spot for him. Well coached and really well ran organization. So I think he's in a good spot over there with Butler too. A good guy, a good leader, a good guy in the locker room to kind of make him a man. I think that's a good guy to kind of follow in his footsteps. Butler's just a solid player and a very, very much an effort guy, and that's good guys to learn from. So he was trying to put himself in the same level as Luka and who else?
Ja Morant, and Trae Young.
Man.
I like the confidence. I do like the confidence.
I'm sorry,
He's
though,
not.
dude. I'm sorry though, but you don't hear any of these other guys saying, "Oh, I think I'm in the same."
That's because they
range."
are.
No, that's what I'm saying.
They don't have to say it.
Says it. Their game says it for themselves. And I feel like when guys have to come out and say that for themselves,
Yeah.
it's not a good look, man. Just go do it.
Yeah.
Players are not supposed to be saying that kind of stuff. You said he's a kid still. I get it. First of all, he's not on those guys' level. Ja Morant's another up-and-coming superstar, I think, in this league. He's an absolute athletic freak. Russell Westbrook 2.0 in my mind. Might be even better offensively. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got a lot of potential. He's got a lot of room to grow. He's got to get a little better defensively. He's kind of a liability on defense. Get a little better off athletically getting up and down the court. But as far as scoring, the guy is a pure scorer. He's an absolute dead-eye shooter. He's a very good mid-range shooter. Good fadeaway jump shot too. It's getting better as well. So I think he's got a lot of promise. But I mean, for him to put himself in the superstar range, in my mind, is just ridiculous. But I like the kid. Hopefully he does. I mean, that'd be great for the city of Miami. I know they already love him out there. He's already like a superstar in that city, and they love him out there. So I mean, good for him to have that mindset. But you don't got to say it, man.
Gotcha. All right. So today the university. Oh, we're moving to football. Today, the University of Louisville announced that they are officially retiring Lamar's number 8 jersey. Thoughts?
It's well deserved. He's by far the best player to ever come out of Louisville. I mean, the guy is showing he's an absolute superstar at the NFL level. He's got currently more yards by himself than 17 NFL teams. That's absurd. And I told you guys from the beginning of the season, I think he's going to be the offensive player of the year, and I think they win their division. That's so far looking really good. One of the few good predictions I've had so far this year, because my predictions look like shit. But congrats to Lamar for getting that. I really do think it's well-deserved without say. Even though he's only 24 years old, he's already establishing himself as a premier quarterback in this league, regardless of his downfalls or shortcomings.
Yeah, a couple hiccup games. I mean, they should have lost to Detroit. They lost to the Raiders, and he was not very good in that one. There was just a lot of weird things in it. But, I mean, granted, they're dealing with a lot in that roster. I mean, no one has more injuries in their team than the Ravens. It's like it's not even close.
Yeah.
I mean, they started the year off losing their first and second string running back, and that's a running first offense. So that's tough to get over, and they've lost a lot of guys on the defensive end. Lamar is right up there with the MVP race right now. I mean, that last game was an absolute. He did everything. Like, it was insane. His throwing was on point.
That was his best game of his career, in my opinion.
mean,
That was
running.
unbelievable.
It was just, and that's a good defense.
Yeah.
And they were trailing 20+ points. It was unreal.
It was like 6.5 minutes left. They're down double digits, I think, and
it
they
took
won.
it took every tick off that clock for them to go get that W. And he utilized every single tick on that clock. And that was one of the most impressive comeback wins I've ever seen. And Carson Wentz too, to his
Played well.
to his pride. I mean, hey, Carson Wentz balled out too. That was a great game. And Jonathan Taylor balled out. That was a great game to watch. So yeah, I mean, Lamar, man, is just absolutely balling out, and he's my starting fantasy quarterback. So I'm very happy about that.
Money.
Yeah, I mean, but even with all that, Patrick Mahomes is still the highest scoring fantasy quarterback in the league. But either way,
But
you know
he
what I mean?
digresses.
Yeah.
He digresses.
So yeah, just yeah. Lamar,
Preston
man,
Pat over here.
Lamar,
Preston Pat over here putting
Hey.
up numbers.
I'd rather take the dubs in reality than the fucking fantasy world. But yes, Lamar's balling out, man. It's fun to watch. I love rooting for the kid. He's electric. He's great for this league. Granted, I'm critical of him sometimes, but I love to see him win. I love to see him do his thing, just not against the Chiefs.
It's fun because they showed the video of when they told him the news. It was like, man, I was here to do an interview or whatever. It was like, yeah, made my day. He's like, I ain't gonna cry. You ain't gonna catch me crying. He's like, I'm gonna cry once I get home.
He's like very like blunt.
He's authentic, bro. That's what I love about him, dude.
He just doesn't like care to like disguise what he wants to see. He just says what he
And
says.
when he was talking to Lisa Salters, he was calling her Miss Lisa on the interview thing, and then
Yeah.
she put on Twitter, she's like, I'm only going to go by Miss Lisa now. Like, the respect he's got for people and just his humility. Like,
He's just
how
a
could
kid
you
out
not
there-
like
he's just
Lamar
a kid out there
Jackson? You know
having
what I mean?
fun, man. It just feels like super authentic.
I mean, we can sit here and criticize and critique his throwing ability because it's legitimate.
I had my
It's
questions
fair.
the first couple weeks of the year, man.
But
I'm
he's
not gonna
starting to
lie.
show improvement, man. And when you're in your mid-20s, that's the time to really take that, take the bull by the horns and get better at football.
Yeah, and his throwing percentages and everything has gone up year by year. So I mean that's scary for the league, man. If he starts getting better as a passer, that's definitely scary for the league.
I want to put this out here as well. I've gotten a report. I cannot tell you guys who gave it to me. Actually, I had a mixed source review, but they came back and corrected it. According to what I'm hearing, the Chiefs will be moving forward with Juan Thornhill as their starting safety. That I guess you want to call that breaking news. I can't tell you guys who told me that, but I promise you, it's a trustworthy source. So anybody that's hearing this or watching this,
need speed.
it does look like Juan Thornhill is going to be getting the starting
We need
snaps.
we need speed on this defense
Over Daniel Sorensen, athleticism as well. So
Absolutely.
that's obviously great news. And like Trevor said, they got to do something. That is the something in my eyes to
start.
give them an opportunity on the defensive side to get more athleticism out there, especially now that Willie Gay is back as well. So I just wanted to put that there. Eddie, continue.
All right. Next question. So Zach Ertz was traded to the Cardinals. I want to get your thoughts on that.
As if the Cardinals needed more offensive weapons, because Zach Ertz is actually having a pretty decent season. He's been a guy that's been moving the chains for the Eagles. One of the few guys in their offense now. Devontae Smith has really put together a couple of weeks and has looked really good. And Jalen Hurts at times has looked all right, especially against the Chiefs. But Zach Ertz in that offense, I think it just makes a lot of sense. He's not old. People think he's like some old player. He's only 30 years old. He's got juice left, and he stays healthy. I think he's going to help Kyler Murray and those guys get to the playoffs. And I know that sounds like a hot, like, oh no shit, the Cardinals are gonna be guys. This is what the Cardinals did last season. They didn't start undefeated, but they were 6-3 to start the season, and they ended up losing 6 of their last 7 games. So the Cardinals got to keep pushing. They got to keep getting better. And I think adding a veteran presence at tight end, which by the way they didn't really have tight end presence at all, just helps this aging team, which they're one of the older teams in football, helps Kyler Murray relax more in the pocket and be able to create and have that dink and dunk like Trevor was talking about with the Chiefs, having that option, a guy that is a safety valve. That's what Zach Ertz is. Very reliable receiver, good route tree, very reliable. Like I said,
red
good.
zone.
Yeah, 6'5", 260 pounds, just solid muscle. That's a guy that this Cardinals team can absolutely use. But this team is already talented as fuck on the offensive side. It just makes a lot of sense they got him.
Yeah, he's not a game changer. He's not what he used to be. He's not as good as he used to be, that's for sure. But he's regressed over the last couple years. But you put him in the right kind of package. I mean, we see guys like Jared Cook, and we've seen, Antonio Gates and a lot of these guys. I'm not comparing him to those guys, but or at least not to Antonio Gates. But you see these tight ends can play later into their years if they just become a part of a system that works for them. And he can become a good package guy for them. And he's not, like I said, he's not a game changer for that offense, but he definitely is a help to that offense, and it just gives him another option when the play breaks down. He's a guy that knows how to find those spots, similar to how Kelsey is good at finding those spots, and because tight ends and quarterbacks have those connections. That's just a lot of times when the play breaks down. Those are a lot of times the guys they look for. And Zach Ertz is definitely a seasoned vet in this league and knows how to win. So Yeah, I mean it's a great addition for them. It's only a win for them. There's really no downside to that signing. So I mean, a team that's the lone undefeated team in this league added another weapon. That's something the league needs to take notice of. And yeah, man, this Cardinals team is good. So yeah, adding another weapon offensively is even more deadly. So it's a good signing for sure.
And then I don't know if you want to say a big loss for the Cardinals, but head coach Cliff Kingsbury, quarterbacks coach Cam Turner, and defensive line Zach Allen all tested positive for COVID today. So
Yeah, it absolutely sucks.
They'll be out tomorrow.
I told Trevor before the show what I'd like to see the NFL, the league as a whole, start to counter with these types of things because this is going to continue. It isn't like this is just going to go away because these guys are all fully vaxxed.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see the NFL do is counter all this by designating a press box somewhere in the stadium where these coaches can still call games, where they're not told to stay home and stay away. Mask them up, separate them, whoever has COVID, keep them in a room and let them do their jobs on Sunday because if they're able to, if they're not sick, if they're not showing,
The COVID
if they're
corner.
asymptomatic, or the COVID corner, there you go, perfect. We'll get some credits on that one, Trevor, for royalties for you. But no, seriously, let Kingsbury continue to coach because this is a very pivotal game for them.
Yeah.
Right now, they're the number one team in the NFC.
Chipper Jones is out.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
And there's a lot, like, this is a team that really has to define themselves as a top-tier team in the NFC side. They keep rolling, man. You're talking about a team that get the 1 seed, a legit 1 seed. So it really sucks to see this because, like I said, this isn't going anywhere. And I hope that the NFL can adjust with it and not have these guys just staying home for a week or 10 days. I just would like to see them give these guys an opportunity to do their
Yeah,
job.
similar to Stefanski last year when that all went down with him. Remember, he wasn't able to be there, and he was trying to. I think he was trying to call plays from home. I don't remember if that was the case or not, but I remember he was like still in communication with his coaches from his house.
Well, that's not allowed, so you can actually get in trouble for that.
I think that was what they were trying to, but I don't think that's actually what took place. But I have to. I don't want to say something wrong, so I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it sucks, man. I mean, not having your coach on the sidelines is a massive loss for any team. I mean, that's the leadership and the voice of your team not there. That's a vacancy if I ever knew one. So, yeah, I mean, this is a team that's is trying to remain undefeated and be quote unquote the best team in the NFL, and they're right up there with the best teams right now. Kyler's been balling. That defense has been great. They absolutely manhandled the Rams in my mind. So this is a team that's looking for another W and go 6-0 to start the year would be extremely impressive, especially with the parity in this league. It's hard to stay undefeated in the NFL, man. So yeah, that's if they lose this game, that I would definitely credit this being one of the reasons why.
Yeah, their GM is also out.
Yeah. I mean, that's not that big of a deal. But
Yeah.
Just having a vacancy in your head coach and defensive coach that's huge.
Because I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a Cardinals fan right now. Wouldn't I would be distraught. I'd be like, why can't they just have a designated area for these coaches to coach? If Kingsbury's feeling healthy enough and he can articulate a game plan and draw up 65 plays for his offense for that game, let them do that. Let them be at the stadium away from everybody
Throw on
else.
some lab suits.
Yeah.
No, but
Let's get scientific.
I guess I don't agree with that because if you're trying to keep people that test positive isolated and stuff like that, I guess that's putting people at risk. If you bring them to the stadium, even if they don't see nobody, somebody has to drive them there. Or it's just putting way too many
There's a
people.
lot of risk. I agree.
Yeah, so
I agree.
I think that's just
Isolation is
I think that's just a no go, and
That's fair.
I think isolation is the best remedy to
Plus,
what's
Cliff
happening.
Kingsbury's been getting a little too cocky for his own good, so he needs a little humble pie.
He's finally winning games.
This dude's out
They were
there
talking about
like-
him being on this
Oh,
extreme on the absolute hot seat going into this season.
Yeah, they're balling out, man.
So for him to have this start, man, that's big. That's big time for him.
So, all right, last question for you guys. So this taunting rule is getting out of hand in the NFL. Do you think the NFL will get rid of this rule like they did the touchdown celebration rule?
Yes. This is what the NFL does, and this is one of the few things I absolutely despise about the NFL, is it's almost like they implement something to piss everybody off just to take it away, and then we're like, oh, thank you for doing that. Like, they almost like, it's like grandionizing or grand, what's that word, where you just like try to get like praise for yourself?
I can't think
It's almost like they're just trying to get people to like thank them for taking away something they should never implemented at the beginning. It's so dumb, dude. And you saw, I'm not saying the Bucs would have lost that game because more than likely they wouldn't have. They were
that
the
was
better
a
team in that
trash
game.
call.
But the Eagles made push. And they were really back in that game, and that crowd got back into it, and you saw the momentum starting to change. And then the first play on that last drive, I even called it. I put it on Twitter and said, hey, so which penalty are they going to give Tom Brady to help him win this game and seal the victory? The very first play of that drive, they give a taunting penalty, and it wasn't even close to
was
taunting.
just standing
He
there.
stood there and was like, like that. That's not taunting. That's called
crazy.
passion. That's called having zeal, and you're hungry for a victory. And as a serious underdog, they were 7-point dogs at home.
Yeah.
You know how hard that is? Dude, that means that at Tampa Bay they'd have been a 14 dog,
I think the
14-point
upside of
dog.
that, too. I was feeling good about it when that second half was
Man,
kicking. I was like, damn, this.
and it's again, the Bucks would have still won the game,
yeah.
but let the game be decided by the damn players. And furthermore, not to delve off of your point, Eddie, or your question, but when you're seeing the official literally holding back Langford from touching Brady during a live play, he's breaking them up as if it's after the play. That was an interception being returned by the Eagles, and he's telling the dude not to touch Tom Brady. He's getting in the middle
He's
of
a
them
live play
during
on the
a
field. He's
play.
supposed to block him. That's the
That's
point.
such a bad look on the
You
league,
can't touch
dude.
Tom Brady,
It
bro.
was so bad that the taunting penalty isn't what we're talking about.
Yeah.
People are talking about that play. People are talking about the interception. It took 20 minutes for them to decide what it was. It was an interception, and they reversed the call. It shows the dude had possession under the field. Did it touch the field? Yes, but his hands under the ball, which means he had control. Just like when Chris Hogan against the Chiefs in the 2018 Eastern Conference in the AFC Championship, Chris Hogan, the
see what
ball's
you did,
on the
Eddie?
field and his hands sideways.
done?
His hands sideways on the ball. The ball's on the ground. They gave them the catch. Coincidentally, both benefits were for Tom Brady. Fuck that shit.
Yeah, the taunting. There's no room for taunting penalties in this league, man. It's just ridiculous. It's the no fun league again. We talked about it before the year even started. That when we knew they were going to implement this. There's so many. Taunting is a part of the game, man. It is a part of It's part of sports. Bat flips, staring dudes down when you dunk on somebody. These are things that happen. You get a pick six, or if Tyreek gets a 75-yard touchdown, you damn right he's gonna throw up the deuces. Like, this is a part of the game, man. If you can't handle it, then get out. This is not for you. So I despise that. That's actually even. I mean, this is we're talking about grown men's feelings. That's what we're talking about right now. That's the only reason this is in here, because grown men are getting their feelings hurt about a game. It's ridiculous. I hate it.
Well, I believe our guy, Mr. We got our guest of the day in.
All right, here we go.
Let's get these headphones on. We're getting to work. Hope you all are ready. Let's do this. Okay. So we have our guy, sports anchor of Fox 4 KC, Mr. Harold Kuntz, joining us today. How we doing today, Harold?
Great introduction. That was very lively for a second. I really appreciate that.
Dude, I always try to enter the Bruce Buffer type of introduction, and it's never led me astray, and it's always made our guests happy. And I'm glad it made you happy. You're now officially a family member, a friend of the show, and we're glad to have you on your busy schedule. We appreciate you making the time, man.
I appreciate you having me on. Let's get it.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming, man. We're glad that you're finally here. First things first. We are hearing reports, and I don't know if you heard this yet, but we've been hearing reports this morning that there is a strong indication, a strong chance that Juan Thornhill will be getting starting snaps this week against the Washington football team. I think this is what everyone's been looking for. It's unfortunate that it took this long, and this is my biggest issue with the Chiefs, is that it feels as if it takes a lot of bad football and the Chiefs fans demanding for change to come. We go back to the Bob Sutton era. We go back to a lot of things that we've seen this team do where it took a lot for them to finally make change. Harold, do you think the Chiefs have handled this correctly on the defensive side? We know Daniel Sorensen isn't the biggest issue, but he is an issue on this defense. Do you think they've handled this the correct way?
I think you said it the exact way that the Chiefs coaching staff is thinking about it. Dan Sorensen will be on the bench. Juan Thornhill starting. I can pretty much 99.9% tell you that right now from everything I've heard as well. He's starting. I mean, even in Friday's practice, Sorensen wasn't even going through the walkthroughs. So that should tell you where his position is right now. Juan Thornhill's the guy. I can tell you that Tyrann Mathieu, as a leader of that team's probably got with the coaching staff there, had a few come-to-Jesus meetings and told them, hey, look, this is the direction we got to go. Juan Thornhill's healthy. He's mentally healthy, which was also a big concern at the beginning of the season. He's ready to go. He's ready to get some plays. And he picked up a lot of confidence in that Cleveland game. And then they really just took it away from him because he wasn't playing in that game, or he wasn't playing in games because, of course, with the return of Mathieu coming back, they wanted to shift people's positions. Steve Spagnuolo said around week 2, week 3, like, well, we're talking about giving a guy a demotion here. So they wanted to make sure they got enough film and enough tape to know that, okay, what we're doing is the right decision here. We're going to see Willie Gay and Nick Bolton more in linebacker as they get ready to increase the fold. And the big philosophy change here for the Chiefs you're going to see in Washington is like, all right, we're going to make some mistakes with these young guys. but they have the speed to cover up their mistakes. And I think with Juan Thornhill, Nick Bolton, and Willie Gay, that's the direction they're headed, and that's what you're going to see Sunday.
When it comes to the pass rush, and we all know that's the biggest Achilles heel with the Chiefs defense to this point, they cannot get adequate and consistent pressure on any opposing quarterback this season. I believe they only have 7 sacks through 5 games. We've seen that Chris Jones and Frank Clark can't seem to get on the field at the same time. We know that Chris Jones is still dealing with contusion. We don't really know what is going on with Frank Clark mentally and physically. We just know he's been ineffective. How can they fix this pass rush at all, Harold, from your perspective?
I don't think they can. At this point, you are who you are. Frank Clark is about 85% of where he is physically, and we don't know where he's at mentally, obviously, with the ongoing cases in California, although this might be pushed back to April of next year. It shouldn't be too big of an issue. And for what I gather, there might be a lot more at fault on the police officer than it is Frank Clark. But he's just not there physically. The one time he was there in a press conference setting, myself and some of my colleagues even sat there and said, he doesn't look really in shape. And he's never been really full firing off. Those hamstring injuries have been affecting him. And you can say what you want about how he cost so much against the cap and how he's probably not going to be here next year considering his contract situation unless he's asked to rework it. But he's done nothing if you say in a game to make you say, oh, he needs to be kept around, paid the way he's paid. But then you look at the other guys, Derek Nottie, where's his production been? It hasn't been there. Treshawn Wharton, they get him as a 4th-round guy with a lot of upside. We see the upside, but we haven't seen the results yet on the field. You see Jaron Reed, which we were really fed a pile of bad goods by the coaching staff there at the beginning of the season throughout training camp. And when you look back at training, actually look back at some training camp, you realize those one-on-one battles, he never won a single one. So we should have been blind to see that, well, maybe this isn't it. And then, of course, Chris Jones, he's out for the game Sunday. So you have to rotate in some guys that you don't know what the production is going to be. The only one reliable one right now is Mike Dana. And that's saying something because he's not a long guy. Steve Spagnuolo likes him in the system. He gives effort. You can tell that. But he only played 1 year of big-time college football when he transferred to Michigan. He's still really learning the game of football from a defensive end standpoint, a position that they didn't really expect him to be at. They picked him on potential. He's shown some signs of potential, but he's still not there to a point where an offensive line is really considering him a threat yet. But they need to double team him like they would Chris Jones. They can't shift Chris Jones to that inside yet because they have no one to really shift him on the inside. And Frank Clark and Mike Dana are just not producing the way the defensive end should.
On the flip side of things, when it comes to Patrick Mahomes, I started the show today by saying that I see a pressing Pat. Patrick Mahomes is pressing because of what the defense has not been able to do all season, which is make any stops on a consistent basis, create any turnovers whatsoever. And so now we're seeing Patrick, ironically, just like in 2018 when he had the most interceptions of his career in a single season was when he had a bad defense back then too. So I think that there's a lot of pressure on Patrick to feel that as if he has to score each and every drive on each and every possession. What are you seeing from Patrick Mahomes to this point? Because he's had a great season in most regards, but to his own standard, he's turning the ball over far too often. I think it has to do with what he's seeing on his own defense. What are you seeing, Harold?
Well, let's think of it this way, and I always tell this. When he was in high school at White House, his defense wasn't good. He was playing Texas high school football. If you know anything about Texas high school football, they score a lot. And then where did he play at college? Texas Tech. Texas Tech's defense was historically one of the worst collegiate defenses that ever played a game of college football. I mean, we always talk about the Oklahoma game, but there's other games where they gave up 60 to Iowa State. So he's never played with a good defense literally his entire career. So he should be used to this, but he's also used to the fact that he has pressure to score offensively. He's always played like that since 8th grade. That's a hard trait to change when you really look at it from the basis of how he is as personality. Eric Bieniemy said it best. He's a guy that tries to rip your soul out. He's referred to him as competitive prick before. Yes, that's what he's trying to do. Again, that's what you always try to do on offense is you try to score, but I don't think it's necessarily pressure so much from the defense so much as he's always played that way. He's always played aggressively. You're trying to break a 10, 12-year habit, and you're just not going to do that overnight. You're certainly not going to do it in a week. So that's just really what he is. That's just the nature of what you get with Patrick Mahomes.
Now, going into this Washington football team matchup, it's clear and obvious the Chiefs have to win this game. I think if the Chiefs don't win their next 3 games, I don't believe they're a playoff team. It's just because of how grueling their schedule, I think, is going to be at the end of the season. A lot of divisional games. You have the Packers. You have some tough games coming up. So these 3 games they have to capitalize. But I heard you mention when it comes to this Washington game, they're going to play some of these younger guys. Let them make some mistakes, but that's what you have to do. How do you see this game shaking out as a whole, Harold?
I believe this is a Chiefs win where like Washington kind of backdoors their way into getting an onside kick with 20, 30 seconds down a touchdown, and then Chiefs recover and win, maybe like a 31-23 type score, maybe 34-27, give or take. I just don't foresee the defense making any improvements. We saw them with Jalen Hurts. This is a very similar game to Philadelphia. Road trip, East Coast, noon game. Team that's young, still figuring themselves out. Washington, the organization itself, has had a crap ton of turmoil. They've done the stuff with Sean Taylor, immensely horrible.
Yes,
they're in a rut. So obviously, you're just going to take advantage of a team that's in a complete rut and just doesn't have an identity at this moment. Taylor Heineke, I like him. He's got good moxie, but again, you're facing a different level team. The Chiefs are still on a different tier than WFT. So Chiefs should win. I think their bigger concerns when they play Tennessee next week and number 1 running back Derrick Henry, they have to face him and see how that goes. But they should win this game, but you're still going to see a lot of the same problems. Again, you can't fix things in a week. You can't fix tackling in a week. You can't fix just being burnt in a week. I mean, maybe with the younger guys getting the green light, maybe they have a little more confidence, a little moxie in them. But you can't fix things in a week. It's just hard, especially with the way the NFL is. You can't put pad to pad except for 1 day a week. And that's just a hard thing to do. That's no fault in the coaching staff. There's no fault in the personnel. That's why you try to figure these things out in training camp.
Yeah.
And when you can't figure it out there, well, then you're pretty much hosed going forward. So I do think what they can improve is telling Patrick, check down. You might see a little more Alex Smith in Patrick Mahomes this week than you do Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes, if that makes any sense. You got to see some just take what it gives you. Take what it gives you. And then Tyreek Hill, he's playing because he's a physical freak, honestly. But you don't know how much you're going to get out of him. You're going to see Josh Gordon more. Andy Reid said that he thought he was in the plans to have 20 plays. He only played 9 because of the hurry-up offense in the second half, trying to catch up. They didn't want him there because he just wasn't familiar with it yet. But remember, he's got a lot of the same familiarity with this offense when he played in Cleveland when their coach was Brad Childress, who, of course, was one of Andy Reid's what seems like 90 assistants in the NFL. So he's got familiarity with it. Expect him to be more. He's going to have to play more. Tyreek Hill, you don't know how much you're going to get out of him. Mecole Hardman with the short routes. We saw him kind of find his niche last week with those short completions. Look, Mecole all he has to do is run 5 yards down, right 5 yards down past the line of scrimmage. Be that decoy, catch the football, and then use that 4.3 speed to try to get 10 yards.
Yeah.
It's not very hard with the talent you have around you. And then, Travis Kelce. Where's he been the last couple of weeks? But he's going to show up in a big way because Washington does not have anybody to really match with him. So offensively, they should be fine. You just want to see more and more involvement defensively. That's improvement. So no, you're not going to get a shutout here. The defense is still going to give up yards. Washington has a couple injuries of their own. They're down a couple of receivers. So this should be a Chiefs victory. They just want to make it close because it seems like that's all they do right now is play close games.
Who'd have thought that the Chiefs going up against a team that's 2-3, we would sit here and say it should be a Chiefs victory. It's so interesting how the season has gone to this point. And I got to give my guy Harold a lot of credit here because he managed to say WFT because I can't tell you how much I've been struggling not to say WTF. Like even when I'm typing it out, man, my phone has autocorrected me numerous times and saying, you mean WTF, right? I got to give you credit for that. I also got to give you credit because you mentioned earlier that you have seen Jaron Reed because I haven't seen Jaron Reed all season, off season. So I got to give you credit for that. Maybe you're on like a carrot regimen or something, Harold. My eyes aren't working. Maybe, lead me to your optometrist. I don't know what you got for me, man, but I've got to give you credit for those two things for sure.
I do see a number 90 out there at practice. That's all I can really tell you.
He sees a jersey with Reed on it.
It's there. And I'll be honest with you, it's not really hard for me to say WFT instead of obviously WTF or just Washington. But it's really harder for me as someone who used to live in Maryland to not say the word they used to be named.
Yeah.
That's what really got, because like for instance, when the Chargers play, I still say San Diego every now and again.
Yeah.
I still say the Washington Red,
Oakland Raiders, that happens to me too.
Yeah, well, I see the irony of when the Raiders were playing in Los Angeles against the Chargers, the fact that one team used to be LA and the other team used to be LA, but the other team was more LA for like 12 years and one was for like 2 years. It just gets really confusing. And the Chargers just play neutral games every day.
Well, my next question actually for you has to do with the Las Vegas Raiders and a story that you actually alluded to this week on Twitter. And when I hit you up about coming on the show, I wanted this to be something that you talked about as well. And my first question of my two-part question is your reactions. I want to get your reactions to what took place with John Gruden and the Las Vegas Raiders deciding to part ways as he resigned this week because of a string of emails that have dated back from, I believe, 2011 to 2018 that we've seen so far from the New York Journal or Wall Street Journal. I'm sorry, I think New York Times. Yeah. They came out with this, and immediately the Raiders like, all right, we got to make this happen. Funny enough, he actually did coach Sunday against the Bears, and then after that, you saw Mark Davis have to make the move. I want to get your take from that. And if you could, tell us about your experience with a guy that I have been, I've loved and I've adored, and Mike Tirico, something that you experienced with him being a hero of yours as well.
Well, I'll address the Raiders stuff first. And it's something that had to be done. You can't have that language. I think a lot of commentators nationally have said it best. You can't have on the field in racism. In racism, was it against us or all against us or all for one? They've had a lot of things in hate, stop racism. You can't have those things on your field if you're the NFL and have someone who's essentially the spokesperson for it via email right now, along with members of Washington's former organization under Bruce Allen. I find it surprising that the NFL has concluded their own investigation and said that 650,000 emails, none of them puts anybody in a bad light, including their own. People have been pressing the delete button a lot recently, I bet. One. And two, we're going to sit here and act like we didn't know this. There's a reason why people like Colin Kaepernick and, Eric Reed took knees. And there's a reason why there was one weekend where we really knew it was a problem, where everybody in the league took knees. People forget that. Everybody joined in one week because they knew this has to end. There's a reason why Patrick Mahomes and Tyrann Mathieu were part of Black Lives Matter video that went viral last year. So you look at all that and okay, Gruden has to go, but what's next? Who's next? And we may never find out those answers because, quite frankly, people are protective of jobs. And as we know in society, when people are in very higher positions, they have a better way of trying to hide things to keep their higher position. It's part of life. It's a way I wish we could fix it, but we can't. That goes beyond football. That's just part of life. So, people are racist.
Yeah.
We know this, and we can't do anything about that. Nothing's going to change that. We're going to deal with this for the rest of our lives, and I mean, it's just the way it is. It's sad, but it's our culture. It's our society, and it is football culture. And until we get rid of really that old guard, if you will, the people that are still of that same thinking, it's still going to be there. I mean, I've had my thoughts, quite frankly, about Clark Hunt and the Hunt family. There's always been some things they've said that where you kind of sit there and pause, and it's like, maybe that wasn't said the right way. Or there was I'll share this moment with. There was a funny moment. The 101 awards that are always downtown with the Chiefs, big function. Until, of course, pre-COVID, it was a big function. And there was a time where Clark Hunt's father's widow was there. And she spoke, and then she said something very interesting. And she uninterrupted, unimposed, said, And I was really, really, really proud that when those guys took knees, they said that was terrible. And you know, this is an 80, 90-year-old lady. And then Chiefs PR has to come up and was like, yeah, don't report that. He just like had a couple too many drinks or whatever. I'm like, has she though?
Yeah.
Has she though? So
Wow.
and so I mean, you think about these type of things, and you sit there and tell yourself, there's a lot of cover-ups in the league. And the thing that covers up football is because it's popular. It's the highest rated thing on television. I think the top 27 rated shows were football games. I mean, look, the Bucs played the Eagles on a Thursday, and there is a very competitive Game 5 between the Giants and the Dodgers, between the two best baseball teams. And I can already tell you that the Bucs Eagles probably topped the ratings 2 times with the baseball game. So that's where their defense is. You're going to watch. They've demeaned women before. Women still watch football. They've demeaned African Americans before. African Americans still watch football. Any culture that Ryan Nassib is on the Raiders right now and need to take a couple personal days because he came out as openly gay, and he's got to deal with emails from his head coach that basically bashed Michael Sam, who of course was the first openly gay guy to get drafted. So that problem exists in football. I'll transition to that by saying that culture permeates through some of the media, such as with Mike Tirico. We all know that you have to have some sort of say or influence with the uppers. You got to play along with the NFL's rules to get rights. Everybody wants NFL rights because, again, business, and you want ratings. When he was the spokesperson of ESPN, when he was with Monday Night Football, he was brought on to NBC because NBC became the higher gig with Sunday Night Football. They got the more premium games, and also Al Michaels was trying to retire and go gamble in Vegas. So it's simply put, it's a shame that you have people like that in those situations. He's kind of a known prick. That's just being real with you. That's including his Syracuse days. That's including his days at ESPN. I don't know if you guys read that book from James Andrew Miller about all the inner workings of ESPN and how many times Mike Tirico was known for being I'm not going to say the word predator, but he was known for being someone who pursued women a lot. And that's the type of guy he is. You see responses from the story I put out there, if you will, and everybody said, yeah, I have a hard time. I've received texts. People don't want to put it on Twitter, but I've definitely received texts from people that said, yeah, I can't think of one person that ever said a nice thing about him. But he's there because he's with my French here, he's with the a-holes that are with the league. And so that's just the way business works. Like sometimes bad guys are on top, but they wouldn't be bad guys if they weren't on top. Everybody likes to joke around and say like, well, Tom Brady's the bad guy because he's on top. It's like, well, bad guys still win, right? Again, part of life. This is not necessarily a football conversation so much as it is a life conversation of like, that's what people do. And, I just wish it didn't affect me so long to the point where I thought like, oh God, all these big people on TV are probably, not good people. You have to find good people, which is a shame. You think everybody, once you get to a certain stature, they're comfortable in their gigs where they want to help people out. Like, look, I help people out, and I always told them, like, I want you to have my job one day. Maybe not now, but I want you to have my job one day because, look, I want everybody to have a job. Dave Letterman said it the best when they were going through the whole late night fiasco back with Jay Leno and all that. He's like, look, there's 99 million channels on television. That way, Leno has a job, Fallon has a job, Conan has a job, I got a job, everybody got a job, and then you compete for who's the best just with jobs. That's how media works. You get the platform, you do the best you can. But some people are conniving about it. And you know what? Sometimes you have to applaud them because that's where they got where they are, but other times you have to be like, you'd have to be a prick doing it at the same time.
A couple more questions for you here, Harold, and we really appreciate your time. We know you're a busy guy. But when it comes to covering sports, being in the media, our guy, the guy that's been on the show more than anybody else, our friend, a dear friend of mine, Darren Smith,
Yes.
he talks about his experiences being a black man in the media and how difficult things can be to get to where you're at. I want to get your thoughts on this, because you look across the NFL in particular. We are watching a league where it's over 70% African Americans make up the NFL, but yet, unless I'm mistaken, there isn't a single majority owner in the league that is an African American. How do you see that going down, the trajectory of where we are with the NFL? Do you see it progressing? Do you see the NFL making the right changes, the right strides to be more open to people of different ethnicities other than just white people?
Just like head coaches, they're open to it, but I don't know if they're actually going to pull the plug, if you will. They're just some people are just going to hold on to what they have. You look at ownership, it's family owned. Let's look at the Chiefs. When Clark Hunt passes away, it's going to be taken over by the Hunt family. It's a family. Wellington Mara and the Giants, it's a family. The Bills, family. The Gula family. And it's just family. And they got money. So when does this ever go with ownership? You have to buy into ownership the same way like Venus bought into the Dolphins, I believe, Venus Williams. You got to buy into it and then hope your minority stake grows. The same way Patrick Mahomes bought into the Royals and Sporting KC. You have to buy into it right now. But it still requires a ton of money. And what we're seeing right now is the people that have bought in that are ownership level, well, they were athletes, prominent athletes. It's not going to be like me. It's going to be somebody who had to be prominent and has a big name that to buy into it. So there's that. And then remind me about what you said with the media aspect. I believe you said remind me again, Lance.
Yeah, no, you were talking. I'm just talking about just from your experience being in the media.
Yes, yeah.
Do you feel that you're getting the same respect, or you're getting the same opportunities that other guys around you, or other women around you, are getting?
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. It's different because like with us being local TV, a lot of the restrictions are just more like NFL rules per se. It's not really like an even playing field anymore. They've taken away the locker room access, so that's not an even field anymore either. So you really just get what you get for the teams. The teams love control. The teams love control. They love Zooms because they can pick on you when you want to ask a question. They love press conferences that are controlled and use COVID as an excuse to only have 20 to 25 people in the room and pick the people they want. The people that they want, not the people that anybody else would want, but the people that they want. If there's an uncontrollable question, they get they want to control the rights because they have their own people now. They have 65 Toss Power Trap Productions. They can put out whatever they want now. It's propaganda. That's all it is. I mean, they had Tyreek Hill mic'd up for the game. They're not going to put Tyreek Hill dropping passes and being ticked off about it, but they'll show him with a 15-yard run and encouraging people on the sideline because it's propaganda. It's PR. It's a big public relations campaign, but they control it now. And again, I go back to the fact that the NFL's king. The NFL owns Sunday. I wouldn't go as far as to say the NFL beat church yet, but man, they're close. So it's. I always joke around on Sunday and say like, "Oh, I go to Arrowhead United Methodist." So it's just it's
That's a good one.
you can use that if you want. No, it's like it's just harder to gain a foothold in it, and you have people that have been there that had the sources for a long time. But if I'm a young person trying to get into it, man, I got to build a different way. I got to kind of sneak in a route, like learning any information that I could learn. You just got to go through some kind of you got to kind of go what you can, something sticks. And then maybe they kind of come up to you and like, whoa, how'd you know that? And you're not supposed to know that because they have this certain people. Like, I'll tell you right now, a lot of the people that from the Kansas City Star or whatever, and I mean, it's not calling them out because it's fairly well known in our circles. It's like, look, I mean, geez, PR or Rep Veach or somebody themselves, they're texting them. Like, that's not it. And they've got their list of people they text. And they're one of them or two of them. So But they're not going to text us because, we're local media and they got their own media thing. So they think, oh, okay, we don't need you. Like they basically told us they don't need us. Their head PR guy will always greet the national people at the stadium, but never greet us because they take us for granted because they know we're going to be there. And we have to do it for our jobs. But then, I'll use a very stupid example here. Our station, not me, our station did a story on, X Factor. And there's a lot of interest in it because people like train wrecks. People like watching and looking at reading on disasters. That's why reality TV is what it is. And that's why we like watching it. So people like train wrecks. It's obviously the most popular story on our thing. We get calls from the Chiefs you can't put that out there. He's a bad guy. It's bad news. It's well, one, you don't control us. Two, yes, we know it's stupid. But three, yeah, you guys put up clicks too. All right? You guys are the same people that try to do stories on, again, like Tyreek Hill being mic'd up because we can't do that. Could you imagine us at the beginning of the game going to Travis Kelce, hey, we got a wireless mic for Fox 4. You mind wearing that during the game? And we'll pick it up. It'll be fine. We'll edit it in post. It's going to be fine. We're just doing it for a story that's going to air Tuesday at 6. I don't care you. No, they would never happen. So it's kind of just difficult the way to do it because they pretty much are their own entity. I mean, I can go back to the training camps at River Falls with the Chiefs, tape of that in the early 2000s, late 90s, and you'd be like, hey, Dick Vermeil, you got a second? Yeah, sure. Yeah. I got a little bit of time. Yeah, come on. You think we're going to Andy Reid and St. Joe? For one, they got us on top of a hill.
Yeah.
So it's just that's how it becomes. That's just immediate difficulty right there. So I mean, you have to show up over and over and over and over and over and over again just to get one or two nuggets, and then eventually you're just you know what? I'm getting more nuggets. Going about Juan Thornhill and stuff like that. It's just well, one, A, it's just smart observation, but two, it's just look, somebody's going to tell you whether or not you like it or not, and they're so protective of their information now, and it permeates down to the college level. I mean, there's a situation in Oklahoma. I don't know if you heard about this, where Lincoln Riley just said there's no media availability during the week, and it held until after the game because a kid from a student newspaper went up to a parking lot with binoculars and snooped on practice and saw which quarterback was starting this week, and the coach didn't like that, so he just said, all right, I'm calling off all media. That's the college level. The NFL, at least you're required, the coach and the quarterback at the very minimum are required to talk. So, because that's in their contracts. That's in the NFL licensing agreement. So, but I mean, these teams we don't owe you anything. So, but this forces us to do stuff like what we're doing now. We have to search out information yourself, find the mole, find the rat, find somebody who wants to talk. And, it's kind of fun of a chase, but it's also kind of all right, it's a little easier when you're 5-0 or 4-1. You're all right, things going well, blah, blah, blah. Things are not going well with this team right now. People want to know answers. That's why we're here talking. So it's a curious situation. It's kind of a tit for tat back and forth with them. You don't want to tick them off, but at the same time, you kind of want to tick them off. So it's a big tit for tat with media. So I mean, I could never say to myself I've been affected simply because I was black. I could never sit here with a straight face and say that. I could say that we're outnumbered in those rooms by a lot, and I think that's a huge problem. And I mean, I'll shout out other people like Adam at Channel 5, Aaron at Channel 41, obviously Darren, Steve Walls, Nate Taylor, obviously the late great Therese when he was in the building. There's some authority and gravitas there. But I mean, Perez was the Kansas City Star who Andy Reid still reads the morning papers, so he thinks that's still important. And therefore, he's going to feed all that information to them. But they just like smart football questions. I mean, they get off kilter when you ask them about something not football related. They're I don't know. They need football questions. And that's just how they've always been.
See, this is why I have my guy Harold and Darren show up on this show because these guys give us real shit, man. Like, if we wanted, the canned, typical, just benign responses or just these takes that you can find anywhere else, well, you can find that anywhere else. We have these guys on here because these guys tell us exactly how it is, and that's what our listeners, that's what our viewers want, man. And I really appreciate you breaking all that down for us because we already knew that. Trevor and I, we've been doing media stuff for a long time. Eddie's been with us for the last couple of years. This is something we're very familiar with, and trust me when I say, I know that even though we're low on the totem pole, we know that the Chiefs have been paying attention to some of the things we've had on here, some of the guests we've had on here, some of the things that have been said, and we know when it comes to things like the X Factor situation, well, they could sit here and point fingers to other people how you're covering, why you're covering it. Well, if they would have just nipped this in the bud years ago with him and banned him from the stadium years ago like they should have, we wouldn't have had what took place last Sunday night. That's just the facts of it. So, Harold, I appreciate everything you're doing and how you guys, you and Darren, the people out there are really putting their foot to the ground and making this stuff happen, making it easier for us to digest and giving us the real, authentic news, not the way that Chiefs or anybody else want it to be portrayed. You're telling it as it is, man. So just from our perspective, you're crushing it, you're killing it, and I appreciate what you do despite the fact that your hero, a hero of mine as well, Mike Tirico, looks at things a lot differently, treats people a lot differently. What you're doing is making an immediate and a long-lasting impact, man. I just need you to know that.
Yeah, and if I had on Mike, like, to be honest with you, I mean, obviously he'd never remember who I am. So if I met him now, it could be different because he'd be like, "Oh, you're like a working member of the media, blah blah blah." Could be different. Could be. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have better experiences with him. I mean, but again, I've met Tony Dungy, and I've been kind of taken across and taken aback by some of his comments. And that's not the Tony Dungy that I met. I got the opportunity to meet him in Tulsa, and where I used to work before here. And nice guy, great guy. But I just always think to myself, like, that's not the guy I know that I met. That's on TV. I mean, there's always a message involved in everything. There's a message involved in what I do. Heck, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Oh gosh, Fox Sports," I would never do that. I mean, so, nor am I going to bash any other media entity in this city. Like, that's not how I'm going to roll. But at the same time, I mean, like, I get it. There's a message that the team's going to want to send, but there's also a message that we have to get out there that we know is not what they want. Sometimes that's just the way it is. They probably don't like the fact that there's article after article after article after article that says the defense isn't good statistically. Well, sorry, if you're 31st overall in defense, then you're 32nd in run defense. That's just something that's happening right now. Dan Sorensen, I know, like, you want to give a message of like, well, as Steve Spagnuolo wants to say, we can't put it all on Dan. All true. But there were 2 plays that directly led to touchdowns, one of which that was a touchdown. That is on him. You've got your captain of your team putting your hands up like this and go like during the middle of the play. Those things don't happen often. So you have to know that, look, we look at the tape. We look at the game. We watch back the games for some unknown reason because, this is our job. This is what we do. So, yeah, the certain things are just not going to be written the way you want it written. And you can do as much good news as you want. You can, you can all of a sudden be like, I'll go back to when I was in Oklahoma City, and when Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook and Perkins and Serge Ibaka were all there and they were winning. I could have been lowered in the lowest rung of the totem pole there in terms of covering the Thunder. The moment they left, all of a sudden their PR guy comes and was like, "You know what? Hey, you want a season pass? You want some things?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know, because your team's about to stink." Yeah, I know. I know exactly what's about to happen. It's all a game.
Yeah.
I mean, you just take advantage of the game in parts where you can. And then, you got some young bulls out there that are really just grinding and trying to they're learning the new way of how to get sources through a post-COVID area where they're not getting you much access. So good on them. I'm trying to learn from them. I tell some 20-year-olds, like, look, I'm trying to learn from you now. It's a different way of thinking than where it's going forward.
Yeah. Before we get you out of here, Harold, this is a very important question that I ask all of our guests the first time they come on our show. And you've been around long enough, man. You know Kansas City. Where's your go-to barbecue joint out here, man?
Slaps. Kansas City,
Yes,
Kansas.
sir. Yes, sir.
I knew I liked Harold. I knew I liked him. I knew there was hope.
You want to know something funny though? You want to know something funny? Never been to Slap.
You gotta change that.
Get out.
You gotta change that. Harold, when you have an opportunity, and I always tell our guests this as well, and I back this up with my wallet, man. Whenever you got time and you want to hit up Slaps, hit us up over here at the Spoken, and your next rack of ribs is on us, brother.
Ooh, I like that. Right.
I'm being dead serious, man. This is how we build our relationship around here, man. How do you think I convince people to come on my show?
Perfect. I like that. You got time? You got time?
You know what I'm saying? Let's just leave the studio now. Let's.
I mean, all I'm doing is sitting here watching Missouri get their butts kicked on.
Oh, that's a evergreen tweet right there, if I ever heard one.
Yeah, gosh, there's not much hope right now.
Well, Harold, man, you enjoy that Mizzou butt kicking. We're going to let you do your thing, but I'm serious, man. I'm going to send you my number after this show's over. I'm going to DM that. You hit me up when you're feeling some slaps, dude, and we'll take you out there and we'll have a good time. Does that sound good to you, brother?
I love it.
I love it too, brother. Awesome. Well, you guys can follow my guy Harold Kuntz on Twitter. It's Harold R. Kuntz 3 on Twitter. He's got great takes, man. He's a dude that I really follow and I respect. He's got awesome content. He's also the Fox 4 sports anchor. He is a guy that you need to follow if you're wanting truth, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. Harold, thank you so much for being with us this week, man.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Absolutely,
Have a good
absolutely.
weekend.
That is our guy Harold Kuntz, man. That was. I really can't put into words how awesome that was, man. He gave us some great content, some great viewpoints, even some things that I didn't really even consider myself with some of the viewpoints he has on the Chiefs currently and the way that the team perceives things from the media side of things. It's always so interesting to hear stories like that. Yeah. It's always cool to hear from the guys that are deep on the inside. Like, this is why I always loved giving Darren Smith the platform.
Yeah, because in reality, a lot of those guys don't get those opportunities to be candid like that.
Right.
It's always a pleasure, man, to get someone who's been in the game like that, been entrenched in the culture of the city and everything.
Yeah.
And, with different coaching staffs, different crews, different teams, different, the ups and downs, and they've seen the good and the extremely bad. So it's good to see candid conversations.
We just have Darren and Harold on every episode.
I know. I just loved how he pretty much confirmed what you said earlier about Juan Thornhill getting that start this weekend.
It's a no-brainer, man.
That doesn't put a bright smile on your face. I don't know what does. We are actually going to transition right to the breakdown for the Chiefs and Washington football game coming up this Sunday. As I said to Harold in that great segment there, I can't believe that we're looking at this game as a game that the Chiefs should win. I'll give full disclosure, guys, because of my predictions based on the season.
Yeah,
I actually had the Chiefs originally losing this game to start the year.
Yeah.
This was a game I thought was going to be a little bit of a surprise trap game for the Chiefs because I thought they were going to be undefeated going into this week. They were going to be 5-0 going into this game. Well, they're 2-3 instead.
Who'd have thought it was going to be a must-win game?
Right. So although I picked the Chiefs to lose this one, I'm looking at this game a lot differently, clearly because of record, because of the way the Chiefs are playing. Now, Harold did break down the fact that the Washington football team is banged up. I think about half of their offensive line may miss this game. Brandon Scherf, one of the best guards in football, is probably going to miss this game.
It's usually a sure thing.
Yeah, Terry. Nice, well done. I'll give you credit. I'll shake your hand later. Terry McLaurin looks like he may not play. Curtis Samuel's got an injury, so this team's going to be banged up. Yeah. But where my concern isn't just because of the fact that the Chiefs are countering them blow for blow with injuries. I mean, you have Chris Jones is going to be out, Charvarius Ward's going to be out, Frank Clark's still hobbled, and I don't even know if he's even playing football. Jaron Reed is missing, like our guy Harold said. He's a jersey out there. He can confirm a jersey's out there with the number 90 with the name Reed at the back. There are a lot of deficiencies that Joe Tooney's going to be banged up. He'll probably still obviously play.
He'll club it up.
He's going to club it up, but we don't know if he's going to be ultimately as effective as he normally is, which he's been really good this season. Tyreek Hill's dealing with a quad injury. Travis Kelce's got a neck stinger. There's a lot of things this team's banged up with, and this is what I talked about with Darren on his new podcast, Believe in Kansas City Sports. You guys should definitely follow that. The thing about it that the Chiefs had, despite their horrific football for the majority of the season, they've been healthy for the most part. They've had a few injuries, but not a lot. You look across the league, a lot of teams are injury prone. A lot of teams are having their injury problems. Going into that Buffalo game, the Chiefs didn't have a ton of injury problems. Now they do. With the deficiency that they've had going into this game against Washington, I understand that we're expecting the Chiefs to win this game, but the Chiefs now have to overcome another challenge, and it's finally getting the injury bug. And so I look at this matchup, and I think, the Chiefs should be able to control the ball, they should control tempo, they should win this game comfortably. But then I go back to the Ravens game. Now, I'm not trying to compare Washington football team to the Ravens because the Ravens are clearly a better team. But remember that game? Remember we went into that game on Sunday night, And we were sitting here looking at that matchup and thinking, oh, well, they're decimated with injuries. The Ravens are just decimated. The Chiefs should roll. It should be comfortable. There should be no problems whatsoever. And then the Ravens went and hung 36 on the Chiefs. I still think that the Washington football team can put some points up. And I know that Harold thinks it's going to be probably like a 31-23 game, and he might be right. But would it shock you guys when you consider that Ravens game, when you consider the Eagles game, and the fact that the Chiefs have not given up or allowed fewer than 29 points on the season, that the Washington football team couldn't go out there and hang 30 on this team? Because Taylor Heineke is one of those quarterbacks that likes to play in chaos. He's better when he has to create on his own. He's really mobile. Yes, he's very mobile. The moment's never too big for him. And because of the fact that this is viewed as a get-right game for the Chiefs yet again, this is also a get-right game for the Washington football team because we know they had a lot of expectations, especially on the defensive side of things, that they haven't lived up to. In fact, they're arguably the worst passing defense in the league this season. So this could also be a get-right game for them because whether it's authentic or not, they're also doing a Sean Taylor retirement ceremony thing that's also could fire up the team, fire up the fan base. And if you get that fan base juiced up at all, they have any early success in this game, Taylor Heineke's going to feed off that home crowd. Their defense is going to feed off this crowd, and Chase Young has been dying to have a big game this year. This isn't just a get-right game for the Chiefs.
Orlando Brown better be on his shit.
This is a get-right game for the Washington football team as well. So this is, to me, guys, going to be a very more of a challenging game than I think we're expecting. And like you said earlier, Trevor, the Chiefs got to do it for me to believe it. As Patrick Mahomes said on that golf course a few months ago, I'll see it when I believe it, or how I believe it when I see it, however he really wanted to say it. That's how I feel about this Chiefs defense and this team as a collective. Do I expect Patrick Mahomes to go out there and put up big numbers? Yes, because he's doing that almost every single game of the season. He's on pace still for almost 55 touchdowns and over 5,000 yards. He's still going to get his. But is that going to be enough to make this a comfortable victory? Because as we've talked about, these are the kind of games that the Chiefs just can't win. They got to win convincingly. This is not a team in Washington, especially with the decimated amount of injuries, or being decimated with injuries, that this should be a close game. But I think it's going to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the Chiefs being a Missouri team, they're going to have to show me, right? It's the show me state for a reason.
All right, there you go.
Fucking show
I'll
me.
give you that. I'll give you that.
Keep it as Missouri.
Hey, you're on one today. I
Call him
swear.
Butter. Call him Butter. He's on a roll.
Look, man, if anybody's watched any of the Washington games so far, that home crowd has been loud. It's been ruckus. It's been a very lively crowd. They've been ready to get into that stadium and cheer their team on. A team that did have high expectations heading into this year, with that defense being what it was supposed to be and not being up to par so far this year, similar to the Chiefs. Maybe not on the level as the Chiefs have been letting their fans down, but still a lot of expectations going in for that team this year. And a very well coached team. Ron Rivera is going to take chances, right? They call him Riverboat Ron for a reason. He's going to go out there and he's going to take chances and utilize Heineke to the best of his potential and take risk and take shots downfield. So this defense better be ready, and they have a good running back. So that we've struggled against the run. So this is a team that will run it and has a very mobile quarterback. I'm nervous going into every week right now. I am. I mean, like I told you at the top of the show, I've dropped all my expectations. I'm not expecting the Chiefs to go out there and just mollywop teams anymore. I'm not expecting that anymore because I got to see it. This team's got to find their balls. They got to get them back, right? So for me, man, this is just one of those games. I have no expectations walking into this game. Whatever happens, happens. I hope we win. But right now, I'm not expecting a win. I'm not expecting a loss. I'm very neutral right now because I have I don't know what to expect from this team anymore. I really, really don't. I do expect the offense to clean up the turnovers. I do not expect that to continue. It's been the absolute worst. It's been straight up Murphy's Law for this offense lately. And granted, we've still been putting up a lot of points, but the turnovers has been killing us. And with as bad as the defense is, that's just on top of that's just the cherry on top of the shit Sunday we're eating right now. So, yeah, man, I want to say I think the Chiefs win this game, but if we lose, I mean, is it really that much of a surprise right now? It's really not, depending on how good this offense plays. It really is going to come down to Pat, just playing a good game, I think we're going to have to get the ball out fast. I think Chase is going to be on it. I think he's going to be wanting to eat and get at Patrick Mahomes, and this offensive line better be up for this challenge because they're going to bring it. There's going to be a lot of blitzes. Granted, Pat usually plays well against the blitz, but this is a very ferocious front. So we're going to have to get the ball out fast. I think McCole can have a big game here because of just getting the ball out quick maybe to him and depending on his speed to do some yak. I can definitely see that. McCole played really well last game too. He was doing really well, and I think this is going to be one of those things you just got to get the ball out quick and get it in the playmaker's hands. Tyree can use our speed. Chiefs are always going to put up points. The 20-point outing last week was just more of an anomalous thing in Patrick Mahomes' career so far. He always puts up damn near north of 30 every week. So I think we will put up points, and Washington's been bleeding points so far this year. So I don't think us putting up points is going to be an issue. It's really just going to be come down to, the Juan Thornhill getting more playing time. Is that going to be a thing? Is Willie Gay going to actually step up and be who we expect him to be? This defense has got to show us something, man. And this is the week to do it. I know I said on last week's show that I thought this could be a sneaky get-right game for, all the hype, the Josh Allen. But Josh Allen is prone to making mistakes at times, so I thought that might have been a good spot for our defense to get right. This has got to be the week for our defense to get somewhat right. This is the matchup where, Heinicke, he does make mistakes. Heinicke does take risks. This could be a game where he could throw a couple picks and Thornhill and, Tyron could both have a good game. Maybe Frank Clark and Jaron Reed can show us something. But like I said, I'm just throwing those things out there. I hope to see it. I hope for us to get right offensively and defense, clean up the turnovers and get some stops and maybe force some turnovers on the other end. But I have no expectations right now. I just want to sit back, have no expectations, no pressure on my end, no emotional investment right now. Just go get a W and show me what you guys can do.
Yeah. I'm expecting to win this game. I'm not gonna be like Trevor and expect nothing. Just because I want this game to be that kind of like that motivator, that kind of bounce back, kind of give that motivation back to the Chiefs to where like, hey, we can win games if we really put our minds to. And I think being at a away game at Washington with where the crowd is loud, where you really get put to the test as an offense, as a defense. I think this would be a really good wake up game for the Chiefs, being week 6, getting closer to halfway through the season and getting to those crucial games that if you don't win, you're pretty much counting yourself out of the playoffs. I really want to see them. I really expect them to win this game. Will it be convincingly? I don't know. I do think it's going to be a close game. I do think Juan Thornhill will help the defense a little bit. It's not going to be. You're not going to be able to tell the big difference right away. Even if Juan Thornhill, let's say, has an average game, that's still better than what Sorensen was giving us. So it's just those little pieces. Hopefully, like Trevor said earlier, it's like I want to see those blitz packages. I want to see the Chiefs being able to put that pressure on the quarterbacks.
Especially Heinicke.
Exactly.
You got to get.
We have to touch the quarterbacks. If we cannot touch the quarterback, this is going to be a long season, and it's just not gonna get any better.
Or depending on Frank Clark to get there.
Yes. So I do hope that this game Spags putting Thornhill in instead of Sorensen kind of helps motivate the defense, saying, okay, he's willing to make that change. Now let's motivate ourselves to also make that change and be that defense that people are expecting. So hopefully this game can help motivate those players a little bit. It could be potentially in the 30s for the Chiefs, and I can see high 20s for the Redskins for the football team. But yeah, I do expect the Chiefs to come out with the victory in this game.
Now, when it comes to the defensive side of things, just my final takeaway of this one, and then I'm going to get your guys' key players of this that you're predicting in this game to make the ultimate difference for the Chiefs. When it comes to the defense, the way I view it, it's like when you see a construction site and you know that the guy that is in charge of the site is looking at it and he sees a problem. And for the first 5 weeks, what I felt like Steve Spagnuolo has been, because everyone's talking about, well, he can't go out there and rush the quarterback. He can't go out there and guard wide receivers. That is all true. And I will say that's not on him. Guys got to go out there and get shit done. I will say that. But when it comes to the foreman, the construction site foreman, he looks at a problem. He sees the way that things are currently constructed. And he sits here and he points out an issue. But instead of dealing with the issue, he's been justifying the issue. Well, those staircases are a little slanted. But you know what? The builder tried his best, guys, and he did what he could. That's not what people are looking for. The homeowner isn't sitting here. The building owner is not going to look at that and say, oh, well, that's fine. Yeah, thank you for justifying it. No, they're going to want change. They're going to want adequate change. They're going to want swift change. Now, I'm going to address this. Sorensen is not the main problem with this defense, as bad as he is.
Oh, no.
The worst problem is the fact they can't get to the damn quarterback. And like Harold Kuhn said, and I agree with him, I don't think they could fix it because guys aren't healthy, and when they're healthy, they're not effective. That's just a problem you can't avoid. So now you have to make adjustments to the adjustment. So what do? You got to get as much athleticism on the field as possible. Who's a better athlete, Dan Sorensen or Juan Thornhill? That'd be Juan Thornhill. Willie Gay, by far the best linebacker they have athletically on this team. Both those guys are going to be on the field as starters this week. That automatically helps the defense. Are they cure-alls? No. But they automatically make this defense better. Will they be the 32nd ranked defense in the league with those two guys on the field? I don't believe so. Because I think those guys, just being the athletes they are going to help. Will Juan Thornhill get burned? Yep. But he's faster and more athletic that he can make up for that. Well, Dan Sorensen, he gets burned, the play's over.
Yeah.
He is burnt toast, and he's just going to sit over there, and the smoke's going to rise from his dead corpse. Juan Thornhill can make up for those types of plays. But even to that point, it's a funny stat that our guy Clay Windler brought up that I'm actually going to bring up and credit him for because he talked about this morning. Because there's been a lot of speculation as to why Juan Thornhill hasn't gotten playing time this season so far, when in fact he's actually been effective in the moments he's played. So, and this is quoting Clay Windler, at Clay Windler on Twitter. One thing about the Sorensen-Thornhill dynamic that is so puzzling, Thornhill has played 142 snaps and has only given up 1 completion and 3 targets with 1 missed tackle. Sorensen, though, with these numbers, has been on the field for 325 snaps. Opposing quarterbacks have a 53.8 throwing quarterback rating against Daniel Sorensen this year. That is a perfect quarterback rating, guys, or almost a perfect quarterback rating. So, given the fact that Juan Thornhill's played well when given an opportunity, and Dan Sorensen has been the opposite with 3 times the amount of snaps.
He's not a coverage guy.
This had to change. But what pisses me off, guys, and I talked about this on Twitter yesterday, what pisses me off about this team, though, is the fact they're so slow to adjust. They gave Bob Sutton 6 years when he was getting worse and worse progressively each and every year. This defense was getting progressively worse each and every year. And it took them losing an overtime game in an AFC championship game for them to finally make that change. Why is it taking 5 weeks of Dan Sorensen out there shitting his pants for them to finally make the change? You can't change how the pass rush is. So you got to make changes elsewhere. And they didn't make it for 5 fucking games. That's what I don't understand. I appreciate them finally adhering to the problem and finally making adequate, changes, but that needed to happen weeks ago. Why isn't that happening, man? And so when it comes to the offensive side of things, it's simple. Set things up for success. Scheme accordingly. Guys, as much as Patrick was pressing or not pressing or whatever your theory is, we all can agree here that the offense looked lost. It looked like every single play was broken. Yeah. Be precise. Be efficient. Give Patrick Mahomes more opportunities. I'm with you guys. I'll agree with Harold. I'll agree with you guys. There needs to be more dink and dunks to set up the defense so then you can set them up for the downfield throws. Yes. I 100% agree. And now that Clyde is not in the game for at least the next 3 games, that is even more imperative because Patrick is going to throw the ball at a much higher volume. They're not going to, even Clyde, as much as he is the bell cow of this rushing attack, only averaged 13 rushes per game. Darrell Williams is not going to average more than that. Jerick McKinnon's not going to average more than that. Even if Derek Gore gets opportunities, he's not going to average anything close to that. This team's going to rush the ball anywhere from 15 to 20 times tops. So that means Patrick Mahomes is going to throw the ball anywhere of 35 to 45 times a game. So set him up by running the ball through the air. Mm-hmm. I'm with you guys on that. But it needs to be precise. It needs to be effective. You can't just rely on the magic of Mahomes. To be honest with you guys, the way the Chiefs lost that Bills game is there's no moral victories here. I don't believe in that shit, especially when you're a Super Bowl contender. You're supposed to be at least. But I'm glad they lost that way because Patrick wasn't magical. And if he had been magical, people would be sitting here making excuses. But because he wasn't magical, it exposed the glaring problems the Chiefs had, and more importantly, it exposed the glaring problems they can fix. That's my point. That's why they need to give him as much of an opportunity to succeed as possible. He can do it sometimes on his own, but not every time. That's impossible. You have to allow Patrick Mahomes to be set up for success, and more times than not, he will win because of it. This team's got to help him out, man, because he is pressing. And you're seeing the problems. He's much better than what he showed last week against the Bills, and I think he's going to go off against the Washington football team because their corners are fucking terrible. And even if Tyreek Hill only plays a limited amount of snaps or is ineffective, I think Travis Kelce's going to have a monster game. I hate to be cliche here, but I really believe the guy that is being... I think Travis Kelce's going to get his numbers. That sounds cliche, but my key player in this game is Mecole Hardman. And I have to say this, guys. Whether you like Mecole Hardman or not, whatever your fucking opinion is on Mecole Hardman, he's been one of the most consistent players in this offense this season. He is second, or he's third right now on targets and receptions and yards for this team. He has been insanely effective. In that
very
Bills
good
game,
last week.
the only bright shining light of the offense performance in that game was him. He had 9 receptions in that game. McCole Hardman has had a really good season in comparison to what people think he is. So I think McCole Hardman is going to be that downfield threat. I actually think he gets a downfield touchdown in this game. I think you see like a 55, 60-yard touchdown in this game. That happens this week. I definitely believe McCole Hardman's going to have upwards of 5 to 6 receptions. He's going to have a touchdown in this game. He's my key player in this one. Trevor, who are yours?
Well, I mean, I say offensively, I think my sneaky play. Not sneaky play. I'm not talking fantasy right now, but my sneaky guy that to watch on the Chiefs offense is Jerick McKinnon. I think Jerick McKinnon's going to get a little more work than people realize. I think they think this Darrell Williams is coming here and be this bell cow, which is good. I think he should be that pounder guy. But I think this week is where we do some deacon and dunking, and I think Jerick McKinnon is an absolute weapon in that kind of game. Mm-hmm. He's a very good after the catch running back, very electric, very fast and elusive, undersized guy. But the dude is deadly with the ball in his hands. So I think he's going to have a couple big chunk plays, maybe even a touchdown in the red zone where we get the ball into him. Very, very quick laterally, right? So I think, so very quick on just beating guys on the edge. So I think there's going to be either like a shovel pass or something like that to him in the red zone where he gets similar to how we used McCole a lot of times too, a jet sweep maybe, having both those guys go opposite directions and not knowing, throwing the defense off who's going to get the ball. 2 speedsters like that, I mean, you can do the same thing with Tyreek as well. But I think Jerick is my guy defensively or offensively. And defensively, I got to say Thornhill's got to be the guy defensively I think we'll go with. So just to see what he does out there. But as far as this team goes, man, like I said, this team's just got to show me something. Just play simple football. This is why I feel like the defense just needs to be a blitzing defense. Just go out there and blitz. Show me some blitz. Put a lot of blitz packages together. Just get after the quarterback, create pressure, and deal with what happens over the. Let Heineke beat you over the top. If that's play a couple guys deep, but blitz everybody up front. That's what I want to see. And then offensively, just take what the defense gives you. With Sorensen's the low hanging fruit right now. Everyone wants to blame him, and he's leading the league in missed tackles right now, and it's bad. He's not good at tackling or coverage, so I don't know why he's on the field as much as he is. It is what it is. He's a low hanging fruit, but there's a whole lot of issues going on in this defense. So yes, Jerick McKinnon offensively. Obviously, Juan Thornhill is the guy I want to watch mostly, and I think we'll come up big defensively.
Oh, man. So are we doing 2 offense and defense?
Whatever you got. Whatever you got.
I like to pick
That's
2.
cool,
You
man.
don't have to follow
my key player, I think, overall, it's going to be, I think, Snead. I think Snead's going to go out there. He's going to have a great game. I do see him getting a pick out there. I do see him getting that pressure to the quarterback when they do blitz packages.
Yeah.
He's so amazing to get to the quarterback. And I think he's fast enough to where he can put that pressure on Heineke. And I do see him getting a pick in this game. I think he's going to be crucial. I think when they do those blitz packages, I think he's going to be one of the guys back there as well. Kind of doing that protecting or whatever. Mm-hmm. I can see him get a pick out of that. So that's going to be my player to watch on that. I think he's going to be a key player. But I guess you can say as an underdog or whatever, I don't think that a lot of people are seeing or talking about it. I think Josh Gordon's going to go out there, and I think he's not going to do much, but I do think he's going to help open the field for Tyreek and Travis Kelce and they're both going to have a good game. And I think Josh Gordon's going to help facilitate that, getting those guys not double team or anything like that. So I think that's going to help.
For that, just to that point real quick before we get to the mailbag, Andy Reid did say that he was hoping that he would get about 20 snaps last week. He only got about 9. So I do anticipate as the season progresses, Josh Gordon is going to get more and more snaps, and I would anticipate he's going to get about 20 snaps.
Him too, that blocking downfield.
Yeah, officiating was just terrible, but officiating league-wide's been bad.
He was trying to break his route. He was trying to get off. The defender was holding him.
I will say, you guys know who's leading the Chiefs in sacks this season?
Steve.
Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, shit.
Mike Dana. You guys know that Frank Clark right now has the same amount of tackles as Marcus Kemp?
Oh, yeah.
So Mike Dana, a 5th-round pick last year out of Michigan, is leading this team in sacks right now. That's my key player. Because if the Chiefs are going to get any pressure on the quarterback, it's going to be Mike Dana. He's been the only consistent piece. That's so sad to say, man, because he's not supposed to be that guy. That's going to be my key guy on this defense. I mean, you can talk about Tyrann Mathieu. I think legit Lord Jarius Sneed could have himself a game. Who knows?
It sucks you even have to say that, but that's your key guy. But.
Right, but that is my key guy because he's the only one that I can sit here and say with any certainty is going to bring pressure because he's the only one that has been getting pressure at all this season. Chris Jones had a really good week 1. Since then, he's been non-existent. Not really his fault because, like I said, he doesn't have that running mate on the other side that's making $105 million and $1.4 million per game in Frank Clark. That guy's just not there anymore. So that Mike Dent is going to be the only one that we can sit here and talk about as an adequate dude that can get Taylor Heineke, an undersized quarterback, and an opportunity to get him pressure, and then maybe L'Jarius Sneed can get that pick or an opportunity to make a big key play. So that's where I'm going to leave that. I do anticipate the Chiefs are going to win this game as well, guys, but I don't think it's going to be a comfortable victory. And until the Chiefs can go out there and win comfortably, which they have not done one time, I mean, let's be real. Not one time this season have the Chiefs looked like a Super Bowl team. Not a single time this season. Either one of their victories and definitely none of their losses. This team's got to start proving it to me that they are worthy of even getting to the playoffs, let alone being a Super Bowl contender. Let's get to the Monday mailbag. Eddie, what is in the Monday mailbag this week?
Man. First question comes from coworker, good old Dougie. He's like, I know the whole team lost us the game last night. Talking about the Bills game. He's like, do you still believe in Spags? If so, why?
It's getting really difficult to keep believing in Spagnuolo. I'm going to give him the Super Bowl credibility because he did put together one hell of a defense in 2019 for the last 6 to 8 weeks of the season. They really did pull it together. I think his adjustments were key. I think they were on time, and I think that you have to give him credit for helping this team get to the Super Bowl and winning that Super Bowl. I will give him credit for that. Having said that, I am very much a person that lives in the what have you done for me lately universe. I don't believe that your past should always give you a pass, if that makes sense. I think that, because Bob Sutton, when his first 2 seasons as a Chiefs defensive coordinator, they had one of the 5 to 7 best defenses in the league. Having said that, he inherited some damn good players in Derek Johnson, Tamba Hali, Justin Houston. Yes, exactly. Eric Berry was an all-pro player. You know what I'm saying? Like, there was a lot of guys on this defense that were ready to go. They just needed some guidance. But we saw how Bob Sutton went at the end. I'm not afraid to say that if it doesn't get better in this season and Spagnuolo doesn't make adjustments,
We ain't got time.
we ain't got time. You cannot waste
shit.
Patrick Mahomes' prime years. I would love to see the Chiefs move on from him. Here's the problem, though. It's not happening because he's Andy Reid's guy. And like I said, this team, especially under Andy Reid, his Achilles heel is refusing to move from things that you know are real problems. It took him 6 seasons to move off
Andy
Bob
Reid might
Sutton.
be pressing.
Well, I'm hoping that's. I'm hoping that Andy Reid saw something different from the Bob Sutton departure to now that you can't be wasting because Andy Reid's at the end of his career too. He's only got 6-7 years left at most, and so I hope that moves on. But I'm willing to give Steve Spagnuolo the opportunity to play out the rest of the season and get better. If not, oh well.
Breaking news real quick.
Let's do this.
The Panthers have officially placed Christian McCaffrey on IR, knocking him out 3 games.
3 more games.
This is what starts happening to undersized running backs, man. They start to break down.
This is a trend in his career, unfortunately. But
Well, his first 2 seasons, he missed a game.
it's always hamstring.
Yeah.
It's always in the soft tissue things for a running back is the worst
That
thing.
sucks.
I mean, look at Sammy Watkins, already hurt again. When it becomes a trend, man, that's hard to overcome.
Sideline Sammy.
Hope the best for him. Yeah.
Saquon Barkley also out, you know.
But yeah, I don't have much more to add to that. I mean, I'm lock in step with you on that, man. I think if Spags is underperforming, and like I said, man, since the beginning of this year, like we have talent in this defense. It's not a talent issue. There's something schematically going wrong, and we have, like I said, Kuntz said that the Chiefs are who they are. I think we are who we aren't. We don't even know who the hell we are. Like this defense has no identity.
Yeah, I think we're struggling to find.
I think we need to pick something, and I think obviously we've invested the most money across the league on our defensive line. We need to lean in on that, I think. I think we need to lean in and just pack those boxes and live with the results and just try to get after the quarterback as best as we can because we saw it was working against Josh Allen towards the end of that game, that second half. We are blitzing.
Well,
we are a good blitzing team.
I think we only gave
blitz.
up. Yeah, we only gave up 14 points a second.
Right.
You can say it's a lot, but it was 7 points per quarter.
I think we just need to lean in and just be like a Ravens defense. The Ravens defense is very banged up too. They don't have a lot of talent right now. They have talent up front, and they live by blitzing and living with the results. If we can get to the quarterback at least 4 or 5 times and maybe get 3 sacks and force a turnover just by our blitzing and our pressure, I'll live with the results if someone beats us over the top every once in a while. We got to lean in and find an identity. Having no identity defensively is the worst thing you can possibly be. We have to lean in and be something. So I think if Spags doesn't find an identity for this defense, he's got to go.
Gotcha. All right, next question comes from Shaggy Shane. Looks like he has quite a bit. All right, Andy Reid is the best head coach in KC Chiefs history, as well as a first ballot Hall of Fame in Canton. My question: how much will Andy Reid's legacy be tarnished in KC for these inabilities? 1. Refusing to bench Alex Smith late in the 2017 season when he went to shit. 2. Win 1 year too long to fire defensive coordinator Bob Sutton. 3. Letting safety Daniel Sorensen play 99% of the defensive snaps and get exposed consistently, while the heat for Dirty Dan from Chiefs Kingdom reaches Matt Castle-like proportions.
I think that there's a serious risk of it. I do believe the optics are forever going to be positive just because they did win a Super Bowl, and we are expecting the Chiefs to win more Super Bowls, or at least be at in more Super Bowls. But I do think there is something to this. We're not alone here, and Shaggy broke it down perfectly about there are inabilities on Andy Reid. Every coach has their weaknesses, and a lot of times they get extrapolated and they get amplified when they're so great because their greatness is at such a high level that whenever you see their weaknesses, you want to amplify them too. I do believe Andy Reid is the right coach for moving forward. I do believe he's going to be here for quite a bit longer. But I do have that legitimate fear. I share that. I just spoke on this as well. That this is something that he really does deal with, is being loyal to a fault. And a lot of times he hires his buddies. Brett Veach was an understudy of his for years in Philadelphia. Steve Spagnuolo, a former coach with him and a longtime friend. Same with Bob Sutton. Same with a lot of guys. Dave Tobe as well. Yeah. A lot of these guys he's had relationships with, and I understand why you hire those guys. But this is a business. And when your guys around you are failing, that means you're failing too to answer the problem and take care of the problem. And if Steve Spagnuolo starts to become a problem, which it is starting to look like, you got to take care of the problem, friendship aside. I'm sorry, but this is a business too with the Spoken Podcast. If one of you guys was being a serious detriment to this show and you were doing shit that was causing us problems, I'd have to have a serious conversation with you guys about whether you should be a part of this or not. That's business. We all are friends here. We're all close. But at the end of the day, we got to take care of the quality content that we have here. And I like to say that we have some quality content around here. Chiefs have quality content. They are a respected team, a respected franchise. If they're not doing things the way it's supposed to uphold and keep and maintain that type of quality, you got to cut what's being toxic in your environment.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, every coach has their flaw. Every coach has their weakness. Gruden, bigotry, Belichick, cheating. There's everyone's got their flaws. So but I mean, with Andy Reid, bro, listen, Andy Reid is a player's coach, but that can come to, and he's obviously he's very loyal to his guys, but the loyalty can come to a fault sometimes. And Andy Reid has kind of been gun shy with making rash decisions in big moments where changes need to be made, and sometimes he's kind of gun shy with making some of those changes. As great as he is, the offensive genius that he is, the winning culture that he brings everywhere he goes, that outshines any real flaw that he has. But there are little things you gotta, and he's got to take care of. And if it took way too long for Sutton to get taken out like he got hit or something, like someone took him out and
killed him. The Sopranos.
Yeah. So look, yeah, it took too long for Bob Sutton to get whacked, right? So there's just certain decisions. And this shows in a lot of his gaming, the way he portrays, his offense, and the way we don't put our foot on throats of teams a lot of times too. That's kind of a microcosm and a reflection of who he is a lot of times too. Sometimes you just got to be, grimy and gritty and just go and make a statement. So listen, I fully believe Andy Reid is the guy. He's gonna have his flaws, but he's led us to the promised land, man. He took us to the land of milk and honey. And it tasted great. I want to get back.
It was sweet.
It was so sweet. And listen, man, I fully believe he can get us there again. We got to correct some things. But like I said, we got to find, and the identity that this team has right now is not a good one. We're not a good team, and this is like I said, this is territory we've never really been in since he's been here, really, and since the Mahomes era has been a thing. So this is something I want to see how this team responds after getting punched in the mouth. And being a team that's down right now. I want to see how we rise from this grave. There's a lot of wait and see kind of thing we got to, because we're going through something we've never gone through before, and I want to see how Andy Reid digs us out of it.
All right. Second question from Shaggy Shane on a roll. I don't know if this is directed to Lance or to you, because I didn't make this prediction, but on your 2021 prediction show on Labor Day weekend, you predicted the Chiefs to lose at Washington. Who?
That was me.
So Lance.
Great.
At that time, I respectfully disagreed with you. Now that the Chiefs look lost in all faces, I myself see that being a possibility. Do you still feel the same about this upcoming Chiefs game as you did on Labor Day weekend?
I still think there's a significant chance the Chiefs lose this game. And again, it's all context-based. I felt that the Chiefs were going to be coming into this game 5-0, feeling really good about themselves, and it was going to be one of those any given Sunday type of situations. I was also very big on Washington. I felt that this was going to be a team that had a stout defense that can match up really well with the Chiefs' skill position players and make Patrick Mahomes' day a really long day. And I felt it was just going to be one of those games. Last season was the same thing against the Raiders, where it was just it's just one of those games that's just very frustrating. You feel out of sync, and that other team's just clicking. Because we know it's 17 Super Bowls for the Chiefs. These teams are bringing their A game. That's why I felt that way. This time around, it's just simply because the defense on the Chiefs side is just absolutely terrible, and we see the pressing from Patrick Mahomes. I definitely think that there is a strong chance they could lose this game. I was tempted to still pick it. I still think the Chiefs are going to pull this one out because at the end of the day, with all injuries considered, with the fact that this Washington team's not what I expected them to be, I think the Chiefs are the better team and will win this game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I have no real I've lost all expectations for this team right now. I need them to show me that they want to win. I need them to show me that they're going to make changes that on defense to somewhat be, an NFL defense. That would be nice. So I'm just gonna call this game a tie, and hopefully one of the teams wins. I don't know. I need to see something from this team, man. I am confident. If anything, if it comes down to the bare bones of my prediction, what I think and expect. I do think that this is a game the Chiefs should win, but I'm not going in with any expectations. They should win this game, man.
All right, last question comes from Billy Hodge. Do you think Tom Brady should have been flagged when forearmed the defender during Thursday night game?
No, he shouldn't have been flagged, but the ref needs to stay the fuck out of the play. I really believe that official should be suspended. That was you are literally imposing your will during a play. That is not what an official is supposed to do. Now, if there's a full-fledged fight on the sidelines or something, yeah, you separate that regardless if it's during the play or not. That wasn't a fight. Langford was literally blocking Tom Brady. He was making a legal play. Yeah. The rule, what you're supposed to do as a defender, whenever there's a pick or a fumble recovery, you find the nearest opposing player and you block them. Yep. Langford didn't do anything dirty. He's simply touching Brady.
You can lay him out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this ref is... So the emphasis shouldn't be on whether Brady should have done this or Langford should have done that. It's the official staying the fuck out of the play. That's crazy. That's the point here.
Live play, too.
Unbelievable. I've never seen anything like that before. Wow. So every conspiracy theorist out there that believes that Tom Brady has rigged games and the officials always give him the benefit of the doubt... That only amplifies that. That only gaslights that theory because it's no longer a theory. You literally saw it on live television. There were, 15, 16 million people watching that game, and every single one of us saw the same thing, whether you want to believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, this surprises no one. I mean, we can even talk about, a couple years ago when Chris Jones, they called that roughing the passer play on him. Chris Jones, just grazes arm across.
How many of those types of calls?
It is what it is.
How many times of those calls or those types of things have gone against Brady?
Right.
You never see it. Yeah. It always favors him and his team. Yeah. That's not me being a whiny fan. That's me being somebody who's used my eyeballs.
Yeah. That's why I was extremely surprised that was it last year when he forgot what down it was and he thought it was third down. I'm surprised they didn't add an extra down for him. Shit, I might as well.
Yeah. Well, they created a rule for him on the field with the tuck rule, so there's that.
Of course.
We're not done with the mailbag, guys. Guess who left us a couple voice messages? My guy, Stan Simmons! He's in the house. He dropped us 2 messages from Fresno, Cali. Let's hear what Stan Simmons has for us. This is the first question.
What's up, guys? Well, another tough loss for our Chiefs. I'm still hopeful they can turn this season around. Last year, at the game last Sunday, and I watched the game. So please answer this question. How did Dan Sorensen play 100% of the defensive snaps, especially after the first quarter, the first 2 quarters? Is it favoritism? Did Sorensen do anything that you can honestly say was good?
Well, Stan, I appreciate that question. That's something we've been trying to figure out. The good thing is ever since you left us that message, we are hearing reports that we're not going to have to really worry about that, at least not for the short term, with Juan Thornhill getting more opportunities to play. And look, man, I do believe there is a certain level of favoritism here. I'm not going to sit here and try to create theories that because he went to BYU and so did Andy Reid, that's why he's getting the nudge. I think there's a certain level of comfortability knowing that Dan's been here since Andy Reid's been here in 2013. He's been here for a long time, so I know there's a relationship, a tenure, a lot of camaraderie between him and the coaching staff, but he sucks. He's no longer good at football. He can be decent in small amounts where he plays 25 to 30% of the snaps, comes in on third downs, helps go after the guys in the flat, things like that. When you got him sit out in single high safety, he's getting cooked. And I don't get it, Stan, other than I can maybe just go with your theory that yes, there is some sort of maybe a nepotism going on because he was there and he has these relationships with these guys, whereas Juan Thornhill is still considered one of the newer guys, younger guys on this team, coming back from injuries, things of that nature. Whatever it is, it's unacceptable and needs to change immediately.
Oh yeah, let's talk about Dan Sorensen some more. I'd rather talk about the time I shit my pants when I was 13 at a movie theater. No, listen,
Which did happen, by the way.
It's facts.
That did happen.
Hashtag fags.
Now everyone knows now. Yeah, that's yeah.
Trevor's out here telling himself like X Factor
It's
did.
the root to my anxiety. No, listen.
We ain't got to know the info, but we'll take it if you're willing to hand it out.
Yeah, it happened. Look, man, like like you said, it's there's not much more to add to that. Like there's no excuse for it. When it's that bad and he leads the league in missed tackles and he's not good in coverage anymore, he's not good at tackling. Like there's no reason. I mean, if there is a reason, I mean, we're not going to get it obviously, but I would love to know what that is. Juan Thornhill is obviously the more talented guy. He's the more athletic guy. He's the quicker guy. He can cover ground quicker. He will not be getting burnt like that by Dawson Knox multiple times downfield. Like, I just don't understand, dude. Dawson Knox beat us deep twice, and one of them was a fucking touchdown. It's unacceptable. If, like I said, that this defense doesn't have an identity. If it did, it'd be the worst. Like, we're the worst. It's so hard to watch. I love this team so much, and it's just so hard to watch. Might be the worst defense in NFL history. We're on pace for that right now. So, and it's not fair to Pat. It's really not. It's Pat getting drug under the mud by this defense, and it's just not fair. So, yeah, Dan Sorensen, we've got to either make a trade, figure out something, get Juan Thornhill some more playing time. Dan Sorensen shouldn't. I don't want to see him on the field anymore. I just don't. He doesn't belong on the field anymore. He's not good. We can talk about his highlight plays, but you got to talk about the things that happen in between those highlight plays every once in a while. Yeah, he made a cool play in week 1. Great. Like, I don't care. Like, this is a new season. Moving forward, we got a whole lot more games to play. And if I got to see that shit moving forward, I'm done, man. I don't want to watch this shit anymore.
Ben Neiman and Sorensen are pretty much the same player.
I'll just watch offense and just turn it off when the defense is on the field. I just can't.
Do you hate him just as equal, Lance, or?
Ben Neiman and Daniel
Ben
Sorensen.
Sorensen.
Give me Neiman
He's
all
actually
day.
making Neiman look like a freaking
Neiman will
all-pro,
actually make
you know?
tackles. Neiman's had a couple weeks where he's led in tackles too. So
Stan Simmons got us a second message. I haven't listened to this yet. None of us have. You guys didn't even know Stan dropped us a couple messages. I just kind of kept that to my nice little self, all week. I was feeling good about it. Stan's got another question for us.
What's up, guys? Second message. Well, this is stupid internet social media garbage, but I'll ask anyway. My wife is a casual Raider fan. However, she loves Patrick Mahomes. She thinks his girlfriend is a distraction. Also, there are some social media sites that echo her feelings. I don't agree with all that chatter, but could his inner circle of his girlfriend with Twitter fingers, his TikTok dancing brother, and all their friends be a distraction for Patrick Mahomes this year? Can't wait to hear your answer on this one. Take care.
I remember and thank you very much for that question, Stan, because I know that's on the minds of a lot of Chiefs fans and a lot of people out there in general that are on social media, follow the Chiefs whatsoever. Patrick Mahomes is a global figure now. He's a big-time athlete, and everybody knows who he is. So anybody that's attached to him is always going to get criticized no matter what kind of person they are. I will say this. I remember 10 years ago when the Giants and the Patriots played in a rematch Super Bowl, Eli Manning versus Tom Brady. And for the second time, Tom Brady took an L to Eli and his Giants. And after the game, there was a key play where Tom Brady threw an out route to Julian Edelman. Or no, it may have been Wes Welker. And Wes Welker dropped the pass. And if he would have caught that, the Patriots would have been in field goal range and could have potentially, I believe, tied the game up because I think they lost by 3. And it would have went into overtime, and who knows what could have happened. But the pass was dropped. The Patriots ended up losing the game. And after the game, they caught a video of Tom Brady's wife, Gisele Bündchen, going in the elevators, and she probably was, drunk. She probably had a few drinks, and she was also obviously very angry. This was just a few minutes after the Super Bowl. Her husband lost, and she hated that. And I remember her essentially saying, "Well, my husband can't catch the passes too," and that stirred up a lot of controversy. And there was a lot of questions of whether she should have said that. People were dragging her under the mud. And then I remembered, even in my adolescence, I was in my early 20s at that time. That's his wife. She has every right to feel however she wants to feel. Do I agree with everything she says, or do I agree that she says some of the things she has said? No. But what my thoughts on his wife and his personal affairs and his family say or do have nothing to do with me, nor do I have an opinion on it. Look, and I can't speak for Trevor and Eddie. They can say what they want to say about this because they're their own people. But when it comes to me, I couldn't care less what anybody says that is the family member of Patrick Mahomes. That doesn't concern me. I don't care if his brother TikToks and is annoying. I don't care if anybody thinks he's annoying. That doesn't matter to me. I don't know these people. I'm not concerned about what they do in their personal affairs because it has nothing to do with what I consume. And what I consume happens on the field. It happens on the court. They can do whatever the hell they want to do. And as long as they're not harming others, I don't have an opinion on it. That's where I'll leave that.
Yeah, I think the only player that's distracted on the Chiefs is Travis Kelce with what I got to look at on this with Kayla on social media. Anyways, shout out Kayla. Listen,
Call me now.
answer the DM. No, listen, the game is played when the only distractions would be something that's in game for Patrick Mahomes. I don't think her tweeting during the game and complaining about refs or whatever is happening. Pat's not seeing that till after the game or before the game or whatever. I think when Pat's playing football, I think he's locked in. I don't think that has any impact. This is my personal opinion. I don't know what's really going on in his head. This is my personal opinion, just from the outside looking in. I don't think that's an issue for Pat, really, in my mind. There's nothing crazy going on. She's just tweeting her ass off, and he's TikToking his ass off, and it doesn't really have anything to do with on-field issues. And if we're being honest right now and candid right now, if that's a distraction of Patrick Mahomes and it causing him to play a certain way or downgrading his play, that's on Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. Because if you're an elite athlete, your job is to be locked in, having one goal in mind every week, and it's to lead these men to a victory. And if that low bar, a distraction is really an actual distraction and affecting his play, that's on him 100%. He's got to be able to fight through that. And what's going on social media with them is nothing crazy. I mean, his brother does his TikTok thing.
Have you read my tweets?
He had the little.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he had the little thing going on with that fan in
Baltimore.
Baltimore. Threw the water on the guy. Who knows what the guy said to him prior? I can imagine there was probably some fiery things being said.
According to that, according to multiple people, they were not even from that section. They literally went looking for.
I'm sure there's probably some homophobic things being said.
Brother and his wife. They were hunting him down pretty much until they found him, said some shit, and then obviously the heat of the moment, he did the whole water thing. But
yeah. But I mean, like I said, when this comes down to the bare bones of everything, I don't think this is a distraction for Patrick Mahomes at all.
Look, in my opinion, I do think this is some Chiefs fans trying to find some kind of put the blame on something.
Explain why this is happening.
Exactly. Why is Mahomes playing like shit? Oh, well, his brother's making a TikTok. His wife tweeted that. Yeah. That's why. It's like, well, yeah, she tweeted during the game. So you're telling me he has a fucking cell phone in the middle of the field?
Right.
Like, so some Chiefs fans who, fuck them. They're trying to find an excuse as to why Patrick Mahomes is having.
Yeah, it's not like Pat's throwing an interception. Yeah. Damn it, Jackson! Come on, guys. What are you doing?
What did you do today?
But I also think it goes a little deeper than that too, because even when the Chiefs are successful, you hear people saying something like, it's really just because it doesn't fit. It makes you uncomfortable as a person. That see. This is the problem, and I don't want to spend more time than we need to on this, but I'll just say this. A lot of folks put athletes at a pedestal of almost like not being human. And I know that sounds nuts, but think about it. When we look at Patrick Mahomes, we reverence him as what? A great athlete. And so people forget that with that great athlete comes a human being. And with that human being comes family and friends and people like that. And they're their own separate entities. Just like we are right here, we have our own opinions, and how we express them is our own decisions. I can't control how you guys express your ways of life and the way you think and what you say. I can't. Even on this show, you guys have the right to say what you want. Same with these people. And so this is why I distance myself from this very topic, because I don't have the right to tell them what they should or shouldn't be saying. Do I have an opinion on certain things? Sure. But my opinion means shit when it comes to stuff that we really shouldn't care about. It doesn't affect us. We're fans of the game, not fans of family.
If like if one of you, my brothers or somebody, one of my siblings was in a professional sport or something, and there was some bad call on them or something, you're damn right I'm going to be tweeting about it.
We're doing that as fans. We're not even family. You know what I'm saying?
What the fuck was that?
You know what I'm saying? Right.
I don't blame Brittany in any way. I mean, granted, she's over the top sometimes, but
I'm over the top all the time.
But listen,
she's his wife, man.
I was gonna say that's her husband.
Yeah.
She can,
and she's young.
When
they're young.
When they do like a hit on Mahomes, she can cuss out the other fucking player.
Shit, I'm cussing my TV out, dude. My TV's got food and
Yeah, come to the
spit all over-
Twidwell's house and find out how we talk.
I just imagine how we get as fans when they touch my home. Just imagine
Right.
his wife,
Yeah.
who is the mother of his child.
Exactly.
How she feels about
sure.
cut them some slack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the question from Stan because we usually don't bring stuff like that up unless it is asked. But because you asked, man, we're glad to answer it. But that's where we stand on it. And we didn't obviously rehearse that because we had no idea that was going to be asked. But that's where I stand at it. I mean, I do appreciate the question as always, man. And keep bringing those in. And for
man.
everybody that was in the mailbag, you guys are awesome. We love you guys to death. We appreciate you guys. We have one more order of business for the show. For the show, what's it called, guys? Hold this L! Every single week, we wrap up each and every episode with a series of L's in the world of sports. Whether they're friendly or not friendly, we promise you, whoever is holding those L's, those motherfuckers deserve those. Eddie, we're starting with you this week. Who is holding the L for you this week, and is it F1?
I'm actually gonna give a W, and it's gonna be an F1. It's gonna be to Red Bull. I think they last race out in oh fuck, I forgot where they raced.
You better not be asking me. You know my ass don't know.
Wherever it was.
Holy shit!
Was it in Europe?
It was definitely over there. Where was it?
Let's just say on the other side of the pond that
Yeah,
happened.
the other side of the fuck. It's the race that fuck. I just
Europe's not that big. Someone will figure it out.
yeah. It's not that many countries in Europe.
It's just a continent.
Yeah, it's not that big. Probably the size smaller than America. You know?
Yeah.
No, but they just had a race out of fuck. Oh, okay, whatever. So, but Red Bull came out on top. Thailand.
There we go.
Thailand.
He found it.
Fuck,
He
man.
found it, everybody. We're good. We can resume. I promise. We're good.
So, is that Europe or is that Asia?
Oh,
Is it
Jesus.
Thailand?
Thailand. It's Asia.
Oh, I thought-
Asia.
That's
That
Asia.
would be Asia.
Asia.
Yes.
Okay, so
I don't know.
I need to go back to geography classes. God damn. So yeah, they had the Grand Prix out in Thailand, and it was such a great race. Red Bull came out on top. I'm gonna give them a W. They deserved it, man. Sergio Perez did such an amazing job at defending from Lewis Hamilton, seven-time world champion. He did not fold like it. All the other cars, as soon as they see Lewis Hamilton, they fold. They let him go through. They let him go through without a fight. They just, because they know how he bitches and all that shit, they just don't want to deal with none of that, so they just let him through. Sergio Perez, he fucking held his ground. On lap 34, 35, I think it was, around there, Lewis Hamilton came in and he was about to pass him, but Checo was like, no, not today. And they went wheel to wheel for quite, what was it, like 4 or 5 turns. And at the end, Sergio Perez came out with the fourth place. So he held back Lewis Hamilton. That was by far the highlight of the race. Such an amazing 10 seconds of the race. It wasn't that long, but it was a great fight. He held him back. Sergio Perez came to pits. He had a new set of inters. They went to the end of the race. Sergio Perez ended up getting third. Max Verstappen, his teammate, got second. Such a great result for Red Bull, even though they weren't the fastest car on the grid. The Mercedes were. That's why Valtteri Bottas, he won the race with the Mercedes. He just had the better car, the better engine, the best, the higher speed. He was able to pull out the victory, and Lewis Hamilton ended up getting, I believe, 5th place, which to me that's fucking fantastic. Which that deserves a W on its own. So yeah, Red Bull getting the best result they could out of that out of this Grand Prix, and now moving into Austin with this next weekend, not this weekend, but the following weekend. They're gonna race in Austin, Texas, at COTA, Circuit of the Americas, and Max Verstappen has a 6-point lead on Lewis Hamilton for the championship, and Mercedes has a 36-point lead on Red Bull for the Constructors' Championship. So this is going to be a very, very, very crucial race for Max Verstappen, for Red Bull. If they want to win both championships, they have to perform. They have to outperform the Mercedes. Even though that's a Lewis Hamilton track, they have to try their best to limit the damage and make sure they come out on top on that race. So Red Bulls, they've been fantastic this past week, and hopefully they can continue for the next 6 races. So
Therefore, Red Bull's gonna have to hold this W.
Nice.
Nice. Trevor
Yeah.
Woodwell.
Shout out to
who's
Thailand.
who's
Yes.
in Asia.
Yes.
Who
Who
was
say shout out to Thailand, best country in Europe?
It's a Europe, transplant. Trevor Tootle, who is holding the L for you this week? And is it like Tim Burton depressing, or is it like a Leonardo DiCaprio in
So
Revolutionary
listen,
Road?
I'm not a big kick 'em when they're down kind of guy, but unless it's the Raiders. So, listen, guys, look in my face. No, listen, the John Gruden thing kind of speaks for itself with him personally and what he did. Man, what he did to the Raiders and these Raider fans is even worse almost as worse in my mind, almost as bad in my mind, I should say. He came in here for a handful of years almost, and I will say I'm going to give myself a W too, because I did predict this in our prediction show that John Gruden had a good chance of losing his job this year. Didn't think it was going to happen the way it did. I said he had a good chance of losing his job this season, and I didn't think he was going to make it halfway through his contract, and I nailed that. Not in the way I thought I would, but I nailed it. But as far as the fans and this team in general goes, because a lot of people are focusing on John Gruden himself, but the team has suffered, man, from this. This is granted, I think they'll get better as far as the coaching goes moving forward. They couldn't have got much worse. That's my point here. John Gruden came in here and drafted absolutely abysmally, and obviously didn't bring a winning culture that he was promising to bring here. Got a 10-year contract, didn't even make it halfway through it, and got these Raider fans who are dying to have a winning season, dying to have a winning culture like they used to in the early 90s and mid 80s and late 80s, which they dominated, no doubt. But they're still resting on that culture, and they've been craving to have it back for a long. And John Gruden was promising to bring that back and that attitude and blah blah blah, and did nothing but make the team worse.
Yeah.
Make the franchise worse. They have a new shiny stadium for no reason. That team does. I'm not like shitting on the fans in general. This is more of I feel sorry for them in a sense, right? Because we've been hearing from all these Raider fans with their nice hot start to the season this year, all that. And John Gruden brought in zero talent here. You can talk about the Henry Ruggs. You can talk about the running back. I always forget his name. What's his name? The other defensive player that they reached into. There's a lot of reaching in this draft. Clelin Ferrell is barely getting any playing time.
Alex Leatherwood.
Yeah, all these guys that he drafted. It's just the drafting has been horrible. The management of this team has been horrible. A lot of the in-game situation stuff. They should have lost that game to the Ravens. I don't know how they blew that red zone opportunity to put the game away, and they still somehow found a way to win that one. Listen, I feel sorry for you guys, but at the same time, there was so much hype going into this. There was so much trash talk being, when they brought in Gruden over here. Oh, Gruden's back. It's just win, baby, all this. It's always something. You guys are always overhyping this stuff. And once again, here you are, falling victim to the facade that is John Gruden. And now he's gone. And now your team's going to suffer for this because he drafted horrible. You have a terrible roster moving forward. I don't care. You guys have you have a couple good players here and there, but you have a quarterback that may not be here after this season, which I don't think he may, because he's a loyal fan to this team as well, not just a player. But even if he sticks around, is he really going to be effective in this division? I don't think so. And this roster's trash. John Gruden made this roster trash. He's a trash coach, one of the most overrated coaches in NFL history. Sold you guys on the hype. You guys bought in all the way, 100%. And now you're going to have to suffer for it. Now this rough streak for this Raider Nation is probably going to linger on for another handful, maybe 10 plus more years, because you got the Chargers becoming a thing now, and Justin Herbert's the real deal. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. That Denver's defense is really good and is a legitimate quarterback away from being a contender, I think, in my mind. So I don't feel sorry for you guys because I told you this was coming and you all wanted to bite in on the hype. But for that, Raider Nation, you have to do me a big favor and
Hold this L.
Oh, and it was Turkey, not Tyler. God damn.
bro.
That's. And we're going to have a talk after the show.
You're offending so many people
Hey,
right now, bro.
Trevor, can you go ahead and go get a globe?
We'll go grab it.
Yeah, go get a globe ready. We're going to
spin it.
show them
Fuck me.
real quick. And speaking of globes that aren't flat, I have an L and a W that I'm going to hand out. I'm going to give my L out first. So speaking of the whole flat Earth aspect of things, so we have been hearing, finally, some things out of Kyrie Irving. We alluded to it a little bit earlier about what we're going to talk about, and I'm glad that I get this opportunity here to kind of get on a soapbox for a second, because for the last few months we've been hearing speculation that Kyrie Irving was not going to cooperate with not only the NBA and how they're trying to get players to be more open-minded to getting vaccinations, but also the state that he lives in, which is Brooklyn, New York, and how they're very strict with their vaccinations and how you can't be a part of privatized games, being a part of the team unless you have been vaccinated. And that has been something the Nets as a whole have been very cooperative with, and the team as a whole has been going along with that, and so far things have been really good for them, except one player, a key cog in their potential NBA Finals success, and that is Kyrie Irving. So it's been very quiet from his end, and for some weird reason, he's decided to, up to about a few days ago, be very passive with his statements and going through third parties, which is really weird because you don't need to in today's world. You can just simply state things, especially when you're not incriminated with violence or any type of crime or anything like that. You can just speak your mind and not have to go through a third channel. So he was getting crushed on that as well, about his stance on the vaccination as a whole and what he's going to do, whether he's going to retire, whether he's going to play ball, whether he's going to literally play ball literally and figuratively and get the vaccine and get back to playing basketball. Well, he did himself a 20-minute or so rant on Instagram, a little video where he was supposedly supposed to answer questions. But really what he did is he just actually created more questions and overall confusion for all of us in what he actually said. He said a lot of words, but he didn't really say anything at all. And here are a couple things that he had said. I'm going to react to them directly. Just small little quotes from that video, the little snippets. He goes, one of the first things he said was, quote, "I'm still uncertain about a lot of things, and that's okay." And he's talking about in regards to the virus and the vaccine as a whole. Well, no meant disrespect to Kyrie Irving and anyone that utilizes that statement, because you have the right to state those things. But I also have the right to tell you that you've had damn near 20 months of a pandemic and the research from these scientists and what they've done, and you've seen the effects without the vaccine and now with the vaccine and how much it's changed. So you can't sit here and say, well, I just don't know enough. That's on you, Kyrie, for not having the knowledge and the understanding of what's going on, not on anybody else. So you only have you to blame when you say shit like that. And then he had other statements like, quote, "We just came out of one of the craziest pandemics of all time." Have we? Are we out of it? Did you guys get the breaking news that that COVID's gone, or we've decreased it so low that it's now no longer a global terror on a lot of people's lives? Did I miss that part? No. We're still in the middle of it, right? Which means that this isn't something we've come out of, which is kind of strange how he just dismisses that, but yet this is the point of emphasis that he wants to talk about. It's kind of weird. Another statement he brings up, quote, "For some odd reason, people love to have my name in the mix of some BS." I'm sorry, did anybody tell Kyrie Irving to come out and start talking about flat Earth? Did anybody come out here and tell him to start challenging the notion of scientific proven vaccinations? No one did. And when you're a star at the magnitude of Kyrie Irving, people are going to talk about what you're saying or what you're believing. That's just how this stuff goes. And for some reason, 9-10 years into his NBA career, he still doesn't get that. Another quote, "I respect all the doctors working diligently trying to find the answer to this." Kyrie, they did. It's called the vaccine. That was the answer to the problem. That's what the doctors came up with. You're just not going along with it. So you're going to give them respect for what they've done, but you're not going to actually go along with what they've done. That makes literally no sense. Quote, "I'm rocking with those that chose to get vaccinated and are choosing to be safe." So you're admitting that the vaccine and people getting the vaccine is the safe way to go. But you're still not doing it.
Talking in circles, man.
And his whole approach, so this is what's funny. He wanted to drive this point home that he's not anti-vax, but he's not getting the vaccine. He's saying that he wants to be a, quote, "voice for those that don't have a voice." Kyrie, who are these people that don't have a voice? I'm not even trying to diss him right now. I really want to know. Who are you talking about? He's sitting here saying that he's trying to stand up for those that are unemployed because of not getting the vaccine. Kyrie, that is no different. Literally, it's no different than somebody who wants to work at a place that is currently working at a place, and that job has a certain mandate, a required mandate, and they don't listen to that. You get fired. You don't get hired. That's how it goes.
You can't smoke weed in these sports too. If you get caught smoking weed,
you have to wear certain clothes. You have some jobs that you have to shave. You can't have long hair. There's a lot of different physical requirements that they dictate how you look and how you do things with your body.
Private business.
And no one says anything about that. They will, but you'll just get laughed at. But now that we're talking about something that is literally saving people's lives and is getting you and your league and your team back to full function where you can have crowds again, where you can have the full experience of the NBA again, you're fighting against that. That makes no sense, man. You're not a voice for the voiceless because there's no one out there that is voiceless. Everyone has a right to speak their minds. And all you're doing, man, is poo-pooing on the progress that we are making here. You have seen since January, when the vaccine started to get dished out there, you're seeing the difference. The COVID numbers are going down. Deaths are going down. Sicknesses are going down. The only people that are opposing it are the people that want to make some woke conspiracy theory out of it, and you're headlining it, man. You've made yourself into a joke, into some sort of caricature, and that's sad because you're one of the best basketball players in the world in his prime. That sucks, dude. You are wasting opportunities that nobody else, hardly anybody else in this world ever gets. And it goes deeper than that, man. You're impacting people's lives for the negative. You are gaslighting people that are already out there flaring up these bullshit conspiracy theories, dude. Grow up. Grow the hell up, Kyrie. You're a 29-year-old man acting like a 13-year-old, bro. If you're going to utilize your platform, utilize it to make a real difference. Don't go out here and negate all the work these hardworking medical people are putting in. You just praise them, help them. That's the point, man. God damn it, it's so annoying with this guy. It's so aggravating to see guys at his level, with the attention he has, literally dismantle it all. Grow up, man. And while you're growing up, you're going to have to do me a solid and hold this L. My W was saved for the last because it's going to be the fun one. History was made this week at Arrowhead. And I'm going to give one particular man a lot of respect for it. He was actually originally supposed to come on the show this week. He's a good friend of mine, and now the world knows who he is. And his name goes by Tim Orman, or as some people have been hearing it, his former fan name, super fan name, was Red Extreme. I'm surprised this wasn't brought up at all, but now I'm glad we're finishing off the show with this one. Unless you've been living under a rock, you know what happened Sunday night. And it wasn't just that the Chiefs got their asses beat by the Buffalo Bills. Something changed at Arrowhead this week that needed to be changed a long time ago, and I blame the Chiefs as a franchise for it happening. So if you didn't know, a longtime super fan, if you will, by the name of Ty X Factor Routon, that we don't talk about on the show hardly ever or at all, but now it needs to be addressed, decided to go out there and assault Tim Orman's wife Dana by throwing a water bottle at her and then provoking Tim to come up the stairs. When Tim was trying to get security, Ty grabbed him, and this is, by the way, being corroborated by many people, and there is footage of this as well, of Ty grabbing Tim, putting his hands on him first, and then Tim dropped his ass. Now, a lot of you don't know the backstory, and I'm not going to break it all down because that is at Tim's discretion. But what I will say is this, and I've talked to Tim and I've talked to Dana, I've been friends with them for many years now. This has been a long time coming. And there are a lot of people out there that not only echo the sentiments of what Ty did, but applaud what Tim did. Because what Tim did was put an end to something that has been plaguing the fan base out here in Kansas City for a long time and has been putting such a significantly negative light on our fan base and a franchise as a whole. Because people on the outside look and they see that guy, Ty Routon, and they see what kind of antics he does off the field and how many people and how many lives he has destroyed or caused pain for. I'm not even going to go into detail, but trust me when I say this guy is not a good person. I've known Ty for over 10 years. I've spent a lot of time with Ty back in the day. And the reason I don't anymore is because I found out what kind of person he was. And that person was on full display at that game. And since then, he has been banned permanently. The only part I don't like is the fact that the Chiefs did ban Tim for an entire season. And I don't like that at all, and I don't agree with that at all. But I'm just glad that it wasn't a lifetime ban like they gave Ty. But this needed to happen. This 100% needed to happen, and it should have happened years ago, because even in the email they sent to Ty X Factor Routon about how they warned him back in September of 2017, what pisses me off about that is a lot like what Andy Reid does with his team. They waited too long to make a change. They should have banned Ty years ago, because this guy had been doing some sick shit at Arrowhead, has been treating people like shit, has spread lies, has been misogynistic, has been horrible to people, has stolen from charities, has been horrible to children, has been a total creep, has been called out on his shit many, many times for his addictions and all that stuff. We all want to see Ty get help. But that's the thing, is that when you act like you're above help and your ego overrides everything else, there is no helping you. So Ty needs to go away. He needs to put up the act because no one gives a fuck now, because now you can't harm anybody else at Arrowhead. So I'm going to give a W to not only the Chiefs for finally doing the right thing, but for my guy Tim Orman going out there and serving up justice on a hot plate on a cold night in the rain. I really appreciate what he did, because he did what the Chiefs couldn't do until they absolutely had to. I appreciate Tim, and I want to give a W to him and to every Chiefs fan that now gets to go to Arrowhead stress-free, not having to see that jackass out there in full-fledged. So that's my end. That's how I want to end this show. I want to give my guy Tim all the respect in the world. I love that guy to death, and I respect him for what he did, and I appreciate what he did for all of us, because trust me when I say, if it was my way, I'd put his name in the Ring of Honor. So Harold Kuntz was great today. It was been a fun show, guys. It went long. I didn't even realize how long the show went, but we had a blast as we always do. I want to thank everybody in the Monday Mailbag. I appreciate Eddie for having an awesome Eddie hour, getting some MLB questions and NBA questions, because, guys, the MLB season's about to get into the World Series time, and that is the best time in baseball. And we got the NBA gearing up as well. The NFL season's in full swing. This is the sports Mecca, guys. This is the time of year that I cherish so much, man. The October, November, and December times. It's the best time of the year, and we are so glad that you're a part of this, guys, as we do things here at The Spoken. So for Trevor Twidwell, for Eddie Ortiz, for Clay Wendler, for Fox 4's sports anchor Harold Kuntz, the great Harold Kuntz, I am Lance Twidwell. Episode 138 of The Spoken Podcast is done. It's finished. It's finito. And until 139 rears its beautiful head around the corner, we're out of this bitch.
Later.